Chapter 1551. But it was Lin Yuyu who had caused all of this. Apart from that, the people who had lost their loved ones to Lin Yuyu were also furious. They took out their weapons and slashed at Lin Yuyu's limbs. Lin Yuyu let out a heart-wrenching scream from the intense pain. Her entire body was drenched in blood, and she trembled uncontrollably. Yin Luofeng. It was all Yin Luofeng's fault. If not for this woman, she would not have ended up like this. Thinking of this, she glared at Yin Luofeng maliciously. She bit her tongue fiercely and spat out a mouthful of blood. Yin Luofeng, I curse you. In the end, your fate will be worse than mine. Ha ha ha. She laughed arrogantly. Her laughter was filled with insolence and arrogance, as if she didn't put anyone in her eyes. Xian Yuan panicked. Miss Yin, what should we do? A curse made with blood from the tip of her tongue will definitely come true. Yin Luofeng's expression remained calm. So what? A curse is just a curse. I would not even fear the emperor himself. Why would I be afraid of curse? Miss Yin, Xian Yuan's brows were filled with worry. In their country, there was a saying that a curse made from blood from the tip of the tongue was the most powerful and would almost always come true. So, when she heard that the target of Lin Yuyu's curse was Yin Luofeng, the queen subconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. A person could only curse once. Thus, she had escaped this calamity. Yin Luofeng's evil eyes swept towards Xian Yuan. Which is stronger, the power of the curse or the rules of the world? Xian Yuan was stunned. He looked at Yin Luofeng in confusion. It must be the rules of the world. Hearing this, Yin Luofeng laughed. Even if the world cannot restrain me, what can a curse do to me? She laughed coldly. Her brows were furrowed. Furthermore, if the heavens want me dead, I will destroy them first. If someone wants me dead, I will destroy his entire family first. If a god wants to kill me, I will destroy his entire family. Like this, I want to see who can kill me now. Yin Luofeng had never feared the heavens. Would she be afraid of a small curse? If someone wanted to kill her, she would first make them disappear. Perhaps Xian Yuan had been shocked by Yin Luofeng's earth-shattering words and was speechless for a long time. But the great elder was very dissatisfied with her words and unconsciously frowned. Miss Yin, I am very grateful to you for revealing the imperial tutor's true identity. However, the heavens are not something you can insult. The laws of heaven and earth are not something that ordinary people can break. We need to be fearful of the gods of heaven and earth. Yin Luofeng coldly glanced at the great elder, stopping him from chattering away. It's your business if you're afraid of the world, but I've never had anything to fear. Since you worship the gods so much, why didn't the gods come to save you? In this country, the gods of heaven and earth were the people's faith. They maintained a sense of respect for the illusory existences like the gods. But after hearing Yin Luofeng's words, the crowd fell silent. I think that this girl is right. We've worshipped the heavens for so many years, but we're still trapped in this place. Furthermore, if it wasn't for our faith in the gods, we wouldn't have thought of the imperial tutor as the savior sent by the gods. That's why we've fallen for her trick. I think that we should think of a way to leave by ourselves. We shouldn't rely on the illusory gods. The crowd's voices made the great elder's expression turn increasingly ugly. However, he could not find any words to refute. Chapter 1552. Yin Luofeng did not give him a chance to speak and continued to look at Xian Yuan. Take me to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain. Xian Yuan was stunned and subconsciously looked up at Great Elder. Under his questioning gaze, the first elder finally sighed and helplessly gave up. You can go, Great Elder. The queen's face was pale. That forbidden area is too dangerous. Those who go there will most likely die. Isn't this forcing people to their deaths? Of course, the queen did not say this because she was worried about Yin Luofeng. After all, she wanted Yin Luofeng to be turned to ashes. She only understood Xian Yuan and understood that if Great Elder agreed, Xian Yuan would definitely personally take Yin Luofeng to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain. Therefore, even if she hated Yin Luofeng to the core, she still did not want Great Elder to agree to her request. Xian Yuan's tone was a little impatient. Great Elder has already agreed. What are you saying? The queen's body stiffened, and she lowered her head slightly. She looked very wronged and bit her lip tightly. After a long time, Yin Luofeng's lazy voice sounded again. I can go to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain alone. You only need to show me the way. Xian Yuan was stunned and asked worriedly. Miss Yin, the forbidden area at the back of the mountain is too dangerous. If you go alone, I won't be at ease. In any case, Yin Luofeng had helped him and had even unearthed the murderer who had killed his beloved. How could he just watch as Yin Luofeng charged into a land of death? It's useless for you to go. You'll only drag me down, Yin Luofeng said calmly. So, I can go alone. Both Great Elder and the Queen breathed a sigh of relief at Yin Luofeng's words. They did not want Xian Yuan to be involved in this matter. Otherwise, if this country chose another king, it would take a lot of time. Miss Yin, you can't enter the forbidden area at the back of the mountain. I will send a guard to escort you to the forbidden area. Great Elder smiled. His tone was not as dissatisfied as before. Instead, it was polite. Yin Luofeng did not speak. To be honest, she did not have a good impression of the people in this place, except for Xian Yuan. As for the risk of going to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain, she was just doing it for herself. After the guard left with Yin Luofeng, the Great Elder looked away and turned to Xian Yuan. King, come with me, he said calmly. Xian Yuan nodded and followed the Great Elder into the Elder's room. At this moment, no one noticed that the Queen, who had been standing beside Xian Yuan, had disappeared inside the Elder's room. Xian Yuan was a little uneasy, not knowing why the Great Elder was looking for him. The Great Elder and the other elders looked at each other before looking at Xian Yuan and sighing. King, we've been hiding something from you. It's a legacy left behind by our ancestors. Legacy? Xian Yuan was stunned and asked, what legacy? The Great Elder pondered for a moment. The legacy left behind by our ancestors is that in the future, whoever can lead us out of this place will be a god sent by the heavens to save us. Otherwise, why do you think I've made you all revere the gods for so many years? Great Elder, you mean? Xian Yuan looked up at the Great Elder in shock. If Yin Luofeng really finds a way to leave the forbidden area, she will be the person sent by the gods to save us? Chapter 1553. The Great Elder shook his head and sighed helplessly. Let's not talk about whether she can help us. Just the fact that she's so disrespectful to the deities proves that she's not someone sent by the deities. Xian Yuan clenched his fists. He glanced at the window in front of him with worry in his eyes. He naturally hoped that Yin Luofeng was the person that the Great Elder had mentioned. That way, her life could be saved. In the bedchamber, the gentle and beautiful woman was somewhat restless. Her eyes were filled with worry. At this moment, a palace maid hurried in and knelt in front of the gentle and beautiful woman. She reported respectfully, Your Majesty, I overheard the conversation between the Great Elder and the Empress. Then, the palace maid reported the contents of the conversation without missing a word. The Empress lowered her eyes and muttered to herself. After a long while, she raised her beautiful eyes and her lips curled into a cold smile. The person sent by the deities can allow the people of our country to leave this wretched place. Furthermore, if someone can lead the people out, they must be worshipped like a deity. Your Majesty, that is indeed what the Great Elder said. The palace maid lowered her head, and her voice was very respectful. The Empress turned her beautiful eyes slightly. There was a vicious light in her gloomy eyes. She did not know why, but she had a feeling that Yin Luofeng's arrival was fated. Perhaps she could really lead the people out of here? No, I can't sit here and wait for death. The position of the Empress must belong to me. The most respected woman must also be me. Only then could she stand by the Empress' side and stand shoulder to shoulder with the Empress. It would be fine if Yin Luofeng died. If she succeeded and the Great Elder asked her to give up the position of Empress in order to rope her in, how could she refuse? In order to keep this position and for the Empress, she had to do something. At this moment, the Empress threw Lin Yoyu's dying words to the back of her mind. She only knew that Yin Luofeng must die. Your Majesty, The palace maid was stunned. She gathered her courage and said, Yin Luofeng has already gone to the forbidden area at the back of the mountain. Without the great elder's orders, we can't go there. It's all right. The empress smiled sinisterly. I have my ways to enter the back of the mountain. In the past, the empress would never have risked her life. But now, for the empress, she could not care so much. Little Chun, I'm going to the back of the mountain now. If the king comes looking for me, you must stop him. Yes, queen. Palace maid Xiao Chun lowered her head again and said respectfully. After the queen gave the order, she quickly walked out and hurried towards the back of the mountain. At this moment, on the back of the mountain, 2 guards saw the queen walking over quickly and hurriedly blocked her way with their swords. They said expressionlessly, Queen, without the great elder's orders, no one is allowed to enter the back of the mountain. The queen's face turned cold as she shouted, How dare you? I am here under the great elder's orders. Get out of my way. Empress, please forgive me for not being able to comply. Unless you take out the great elder's token, you will not be able to enter the back of the mountain. The queen sneered. The great elder only has 1 token, and he has already given it to Lady Yun. What do you expect me to get another token for you? This. The 2 guards fell silent for a moment and looked at each other, clearly doubting the veracity of the queen's words. The queen's eyes darkened. To be honest, I have come because the great elder regrets his decision to order me to bring Lady Yun away. If Lady Yun loses her life in the back of the mountain because of your obstruction, will you be able to bear the consequences? Chapter 1554. The 2 guards looked at each other and asked, Please wait for a moment, Your Majesty. We'll inform the head elder. If the head elder allows it, we'll let you in. The empress knitted her willowy brows again when she heard the guard's words, and the impatience in her eyes deepened. All right, I'll wait for you here. Unfortunately, by the time you've reported back, Miss Yin would have been long gone. By then, if the head elder blames you, you'll have to bear the responsibility. The empress fiercely flung her sleeves and berated them sternly. The 2 guards trembled when they heard this. In the end, they gritted their teeth and said, Your Majesty, you'd better go and come back quickly. Once they had spoken, the 2 of them separated and made way for the empress. The empress scoffed icily and strode in. The moment she entered the back of the mountain, the corners of her lips curled into a smile as if her scheme had succeeded. In the back of the mountain, the young girl paused in front of a cave. She could faintly sense a powerful aura coming from the cave, and there was even the sound of a dragon's roar. If I'm not wrong, this cave is the forbidden area. Yin Luofeng fell silent for a moment before she slowly walked into the cave. The moment she stepped into the cave, a wave of heat rushed towards her, almost pushing her out of the cave. Master, I sense a very powerful force in this cave. The puppet's body has yet to recover, and it won't be able to withstand more than a few attacks. You must be careful. Yin Luofeng gently stroked the jade pendant on her neck as her lips curled into a smile. All right. In reality, this jade pendant of hers could withstand 1 fatal attack. Otherwise, she would not have taken the risk to come here. As she ventured deeper, Yin Luofeng felt the wave of heat become more and more intense. It was as if it was going to roast her into ashes. Very soon, Yin Luofeng stopped and turned her gaze towards the front. Her eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. That's, in a large, deep pit, an icy blue water dragon was bound in the pit by a thick metal chain. Its body was transparent, and it let out a sorrowful roar. It was surrounded by bright red flames. The temperature of the flames was scorching, and the water dragon was in extreme pain. Logically speaking, water subdued fire. However, this fire was not extinguished by the water dragon. The scorching heat seeped into one's soul. Even standing in front of the deep pit, one could feel one's soul trembling. Master, be careful. Little Mo's nervous voice rang out when he saw the huge wave rushing towards him. Yin Luofeng came back to his senses and dodged to the side. At this moment, her back was drenched in cold sweat. If she was touched by this huge wave, she would definitely be scared out of her wits. There was no way to save him. Master, this flame is very fierce. It's the reincarnation flame that can never be extinguished. Even if you're just touched by a spark, you'll die. However, this water dragon's soul has stayed in the flames for so long, yet it hasn't been extinguished. That's quite surprising. Tisk. As soon as little Imo finished speaking, Bai Shao sneered, "Can't you see that? The reason why the water dragon's soul hasn't been extinguished after staying in the spirit flame for so long is not only because of its own abilities, but also because it has devoured many souls and is using these souls to restore its own soul." Bai Shao was the tree of life. During this period of time, she had not done anything in the temple, but now she could not help but interrupt. Chapter 1555. Master, all these years, the reason why those who have come here have been unable to return is because they have become nutrients for the water dragon. Therefore, in order to avoid suffering the same fate, we should leave first. Yin Luofeng fell silent. She had a feeling that the opportunity to leave this place lay beneath the water dragon. However, ignoring the ferocious fire of reincarnation, just this water dragon alone was not something she could fight against. "Master, be careful." Suddenly, little Mo's anxious voice rang out from within her soul. Yin Luofeng instantly raised her head and saw that the water dragon was already staring at her with its ferocious eyes. Its slightly open mouth emitted a powerful suction force. That suction force was like a hand that was forcefully dragging her soul out. As for the water dragon's open mouth, it was like an endless black hole that one could not see the bottom of. Yin Luofeng clenched her fists tightly. She felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on her body. She could not move and could only stare helplessly at the water dragon's gaping mouth. "Yin Luofeng, I've finally found you. Die." However, at that moment, a cold laugh rang out from behind her. Yin Luofeng turned her head forcefully and saw that the Empress had appeared behind her without her knowing. Her slender, jade-like hands pushed Yin Luofeng fiercely, pushing her into the raging sea of flames at that moment. Yin Luofeng no longer had the time to think about why she had not sensed the Empress at all when she had appeared here. She also could not think about why the Empress could come to this back mountain. She only knew that there were endless dangers waiting for her below. Crack! The jade tablet on her neck split in half. The rope also broke and fell into the flames. Roar! When the water dragon saw that its food had fallen, it did not care about the arrogant and smug Empress who was standing in front of the deep pit. It used its tail to wrap around Yin Luofeng's body, its ice-blue eyes filled with greed. The Seven Continents. In a remote town, a couple was sitting in an inn, resting. Between the two of them, the man was dressed in embroidered robes and looked cultured and elegant. The woman, on the other hand, was valiant and elegant. Her hair was tied up with a red ribbon, and her red robes fluttered gently in the breeze. Suddenly, the woman in red's face paled, and she stood up with a thud. "What happened?" The man was startled. His gentle eyes gazed at the woman in red as he asked. The woman in red clenched her fists tightly. "Do you still remember the jade token I gave Fenger when we first met?" She took a deep breath. "I've been carrying this jade token with me since I was young. I've always had a strong feeling about its existence. Back then, I gave Fenger the jade token not only to save her life, but also to let me know if she's still alive." The man's heart suddenly trembled, and he also quickly stood up, eyebrows and eyes filled with worry. "You mean, I can sense that the jade pendant has shattered." There was probably no one who didn't know what it meant when the jade token shattered. In other words, Yin Luofeng had already encountered a fatal crisis. "I'm going to find Fenger and shower." The woman in red's eyes were domineering, and her voice was filled with killing intent. "If I find out who dares to touch my daughter-in-law, I will make them suffer a fate worse than hell." At the same time, Grandpa June, who was in the middle of disciplining his own disciple, seemed to have felt something. With a poochie sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1556. Master. Jun Xian's expression changed greatly. and he hurriedly held onto his father. He was so worried that he was about to cry. Master, it's all my fault. I actually made you so angry that you vomited blood. Disciple promises that I will listen to Master in everything from now on. I will never make you angry again. The pitiful Jun Xian thought that he had angered Grandpa Jun, causing him to vomit 3 liters of blood. However, Grandpa Jun's face was pale and filled with grief. Little Yun, something really happened this time. What? Jun Xian widened his eyes in shock and looked at Grandpa Jun. Impossible. You gave her the soul jade plate. If she is in danger, she can just tear the soul jade plate and you'll be able to save her. She hasn't even touched the soul jade plate. How could she be in danger? Grandpa Jun shook his head sorrowfully. If that Yin lass really did tear up the jade pendant, it proves that the danger she faced can still be resolved. Since she didn't even touch the jade tablet, it proves that even if I appeared, I wouldn't be able to save her. Based on this girl's character, how could she possibly drag down another person before she dies? Other than the Jun family jade plate that Jun Fengling had given her, Yin Luofeng also had the soul jade plate that Grandpa Jun had given her before she left. It was also because of this soul jade tablet that Grandpa Jun could clearly sense that Yin Luofeng was in mortal danger. Perhaps she no longer existed in this world. 2 streams of tears flowed down from the corners of Grandpa Jun's eyes. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have allowed her to go to the Hidden God Mountain. In a corner of the Jun family's courtyard, Jun Linger hid her body behind the wall. Perhaps it was because Grandpa Jun was in a state of grief that he did not realize that Jun Linger had heard his words at this moment. Jun Linger's body was trembling uncontrollably. Unknowingly, tears were streaming down her cheeks. Sister Yun is dead? The big Sister Yun who had protected Chao Yueqin while she was strutting around was already dead? Impossible. How could such a powerful and domineering big Sister Yun die? Grandpa, I must be lying. Jun Linger bit her lip and turned to walk out of the Jun residence. She had only taken a few steps when a hand grabbed her from behind. Ling, or where are you going? Jun Linger's body trembled. With her back facing the man behind her, her slightly lowered eyes flashed with determination. Cousin, I'm just going out to relax. Relax? I think you're planning to go to the Hidden God Mountain to relax, right? Hua Yifei stared straight at Jun Ling. Under his gaze, Jun Linger had nowhere to hide. Cousin, I'm just going to verify if Big Sister Yun is really dead. No, it's too dangerous there. You can't go. Hua Yifei tightly grabbed Jun Linger's hand and said. Jun Linger's expression was very sorrowful, and her frail body looked very pitiful. Even so, her spirited voice was still filled with determination. Back then, when Chao Yueqin bullied me, she stood up for me. Even my father only advised me to be patient. But she wasn't afraid of the Jun family. She taught Chao Yueqin a lesson on my behalf. Cousin, in this world, other than grandfather, only you and her can disregard everything and stand by my side. Even my father can't do this. Jun Linger had no intention of blaming Jun Xian. After all, Jun Xian was the head of the Jun family. He had to consider many things. She just wanted to say that no matter what, she had to go to the Hidden God Mountain. Linger. Chapter 1557. Hua Yifei's heart tightened, but at this moment, Jun Linger suddenly turned her head and kissed his lips. This sudden action caused Hua Yifei's body to stiffen. Then a wave of dizziness came over him, causing his body to stagger a few times. Ling Yu bang. Before Hua Yifei could finish his words, he fell to the ground head first and lost all consciousness. Cousin, I'm sorry, I must go to the Hidden God Mountain. She wiped the corner of her mouth, turned around and walked out, not even looking back at Hua Yifei. She was afraid that if she looked at him one more time, she would not be able to bear to leave. Young master, young master. A passing servant saw the unconscious Hua Yifei on the ground and shouted anxiously, Someone come quickly. Young master has fainted. At this moment, Grandpa Jun was still grieving. When he heard the servant's words, he did not have time to recover from his pain and quickly walked towards the front yard. Master, what happened to Yifei? Jun Xian frowned. Indeed, before one wave had subsided, Hua Yifei had suddenly fainted before Yun Luofeng's life or death was even known. That's right. Where is Ling? In the past, if Junlinger had heard that Hua Yifei had fainted, she would have rushed over immediately. Why was there no sign of her now? Grandpa Jun had already straightened his back. He waved his hand and had people carry Hua Yifei back to his room to rest. You don't need to look for Linger. This sentence was directed at Jun Xian. Master. Jun Xian looked at Grandpa Jun in surprise. What did Master mean by this? Yifei fainted because he was drugged, and this drugging was done by Ling. What? Jun Xian was shocked. Linger and Hua Yifei were childhood sweethearts. They loved each other. Why would she poison him? Grandpa Jun smiled bitterly and shook his head. If I'm not wrong, Linger must have heard our conversation and found out about Yun Luofeng's accidental death. She must have gone to the Hidden God Mountain. At this moment, Jun Xian's expression changed. He hurriedly ordered, Men, go and bring the young miss back immediately. Grandpa Jun did not stop Jun Xian's actions. At his age, he could no longer bear the pain of losing any more family members. Xian, you will continue to manage the Jun family. I will be leaving for a while. Master, where are you going? If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Even if the Yun girl is already dead, I will still bring her corpse back from the Hidden God Mountain and let her rest in peace. The old man took a deep breath, suppressing the pain in his heart, and slowly said, Master. Jun Xian was so scared that he hugged the old man and said nervously, You can't go. The Jun family can't live without you, and I don't want to lose you. Sigh. Grandpa Jun sighed and slowly raised his hand. From the looks of it, he wanted to stroke Jun Xian's head. Don't judge Jun Xian by how awe-inspiring he was in the Jun family. In front of his master, he was always like a child. So, Grandfather Jun's actions were not surprising, Master. Jun Xian's eyes were filled with tears. He raised his head and waited for his master's caress. Jun Xian did not wait for his master's caress. What he waited for was a muffled thud. Grandpa Jun's hand had already landed heavily on his head. At that moment, Jun Xian felt stars before his eyes. He became dizzy and his body fell backwards. Before he fainted, Jun Xian only said one sentence. Master, you are so cruel. Chapter 1558. Grandpa Jun glanced at Jun Xian, who was lying on the ground, then turned to the Jun family. Carry him away. He'll wake up on his own in less than half a day. Yes, old master. The Jun family members responded, but their mouths were twitching. They finally understood where the young miss had learned her personality from. As expected of the people brought up by the old master, they were all so unreasonable. First, the young miss knocked out Hua Yifei. Then, the old master directly knocked out the old master with a single slap. Grandpa Jun slowly turned around and walked out the door. Hidden Divine Mountain. The forbidden area at the back of the mountain. Inside the huge pit, there was a sea of flames that was incomparably bright red. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at her palm. A look of surprise flashed across her evil eyes. Am I not dead yet? When she came back to her senses, she found herself in a protective circle. No flames could touch her. Master, this is the effect of the jade tablet that Junfeng Ling gave you. However, this layer of protection can only last for a short period of time. During this period of time, all attacks will be useless against you. Once this period of time is over, you will no longer be able to do anything. At the beginning, Yin Luofeng had thought that the jade tablet could only block one attack for her, but she didn't know how to block it. Only now did she understand that there was a seal set up within the jade tablet. Once she encountered danger, the seal would automatically release itself, and a protective layer would appear to protect her. Xiao Mo, by Xiao, do you have any way to let me temporarily ignore the fire of reincarnation? Yin Luofeng asked after thinking for a while. As long as I can ignore the fire of reincarnation, I'll have a chance to deal with this water dragon. Outside the protective barrier, the water dragon glared at Yin Luofeng. Its eyes were filled with savagery, greed, and anger. The food that was already in their hands flew away just like that. No matter who it was, they would feel unhappy. Master, Bai Zhao's clear voice came slowly. My tree of life can protect you and allow you to ignore the fire of reincarnation for 15 minutes. However, you must remember that you only have 15 minutes. If you exceed this time, even I won't be able to help you. 15 minutes? Yin Luofeng nodded slightly. 15 minutes is enough. At this point, the layer of barrier that was protecting her gradually faded, as if it would disappear at any time. The water dragon's eyes were filled with excitement, because it could already sense that this human girl's soul was about to become its food. Pa! The protective barrier suddenly burst like a bubble. At the same time, a faint green light surrounded Yun Luofeng, dispersing the flames that wanted to devour her. A cool feeling spread throughout her body, making her feel comfortable. Roar! Even though the water dragon was surprised that the world annihilation flame had retreated, it did not hesitate and charged at Yun Luofeng. The gigantic dragon tail slammed into Yun Luofeng's body, sending her flying. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, causing her face to pale. Yun Luofeng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the giant dragon with vigilance and determination. You're just the soul of a giant dragon. I don't believe that I can't subdue you. The water dragon sensed Yun Luofeng's provocation and became even angrier. The chains on its body rattled as it shook, its eyes filled with anger. Chapter 1559. Roar. The water dragon roared angrily and swung its tail at Yun Luofeng, as if it wanted to kill the woman in front of it in one blow. Bang! Yun Luofeng took a few steps back and slammed heavily into the rock wall. She lifted her head and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, a mocking smile in her eyes. Again, her steps were very fast. In an instant, she was in front of the water dragon. She grabbed the two dragon horns on its head tightly with both hands and suddenly climbed up. Roar! The water dragon was even more furious. It opened its mouth and spat out dragon breath, but Yun Luofeng had already climbed up its head. The dragon breath could only hit the wall and be swallowed by the flames. If you were still alive, perhaps I would fear you. Now you're just a spirit. At first, the water dragon did not think much of the woman in white. It desperately shook its head, trying to shake the woman off its head. But then, the woman did something that made it so angry that it wanted to split apart. The woman lay on the water dragon's head to maintain her balance. Then she opened her mouth and bit down on the water dragon's head. With a ripping sound, she tore out a piece of the dragon's soul and chewed it slowly in her mouth. Roar! The intense pain caused the water dragon's entire body to tremble. It could not help but howl. Its entire body contorted in pain, and its movements to shake Yun Luofeng became more and more violent. But the woman was still holding on tightly to the dragon's horns and gnawing on the water dragon's soul. You want to devour my soul, so I'll devour yours first. Rip! Another wave of intense pain. The water dragon no longer had its usual domineering cruelty. Its eyes were pleading as it whimpered. It seemed to be begging for mercy, hoping that Yun Luofeng would let it go. Let you go? Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. If I were the one who lost, would you let me go? If she failed, she could only be devoured by the water dragon. Since that was the case, she might as well devour the water dragon's soul first. Roar! The water dragon slammed its body against the rock wall in pain. Its cries became even more furious and pained. If Yun Luofeng had not climbed up its head, it would definitely have torn this woman into 1,000 pieces. Yun Luofeng also sensed the killing intent in the water dragon's heart, and his gnawing became more and more violent. Gradually, the water dragon withered and didn't resist as fiercely as before. Its soul was very weak, so weak that it could disappear at any moment. Seeing that the water dragon no longer had the ability to resist, Yun Luofeng summoned the gold-seeking rats. In an instant, the rats surrounded the water dragon and used their sharp teeth to crush its soul, eating it with relish. Not long after, the entire water dragon was digested in the stomachs of Yun Luofeng and the rats. When Yin Luofeng put the rats back into the divine grimoire space, he suddenly felt as if there was a force fiercely pounding against his body. Master, quick, sit down and suppress the power of this water dragon. Otherwise, you might explode and die. Little Mo's anxious voice could be heard. This time, Yin Luofeng had indeed been too impulsive. She wasn't a gold-seeking rat and couldn't directly digest the water dragon's soul. If she didn't handle it properly, the power contained in the soul would explode in her body. Yin Luofeng didn't think any further and hurriedly sat down cross-legged. She couldn't care less about the samsara fire around her. She just wanted to quickly suppress the power in her body. Chapter 1560. Oh no, Bai Zhao's heart sank. Her power couldn't last long. If Yin Luofeng didn't leave, the fire of reincarnation would turn her into ashes in an instant. However, it was too late for her to leave the deep pit, and the soul power in her body would make her explode and die. Hearing Bai Zhao's words, she felt that the fire of reincarnation around Yin Luofeng had begun to stir. After a while, when the green light circle around Yin Luofeng disappeared, the fire of reincarnation rushed up and drowned her in the deep pit. Compared with Bai Zhao and the others who were shocked, Xiao Mo was much calmer, but his big bright eyes were still filled with nervousness and worry. If it were my previous master, she would have been turned into ashes by the fire of reincarnation immediately. But don't forget that the water dragon has lived here for so many years without dying, which proves how powerful his soul power is. So my master, who has devoured the water dragon's soul, won't be annihilated so easily. Xiao Mo clenched his fists tightly, a contemplative look in his eyes. I asked my master to stay here and absorb the water dragon's soul, because the fire of reincarnation will suppress the water dragon's power. If my master can withstand it, her strength will be improved to a higher level. But if she can't, Xiao Mo's heart trembled, and his face became resolute. No, my master will definitely survive. At the foot of the back mountain, the queen hurriedly ran down. Seeing Xian Yuan, who led the guards here, her heart trembled and her face turned pale. Your Majesty, Xian Yuan rushed up aggressively, slapped the queen on the cheek, and angrily shouted, "Who allowed you to step into the back mountain?" The queen bit her lips, her eyes brimming with tears. She covered her face with her hands, and her eyes were full of grief. This was the first time that the king had hit her. It was just because of Yin Luofeng. Fortunately, that woman was dead, and no one would come to steal her man. Thinking of this, the queen lowered her eyes, and there was a gloomy and ferocious look in her eyes. Come on, tie the queen up and send her to the elder's office for punishment. Xian Yuan coldly glanced at the queen, fiercely flicked his sleeves, and turned away. The elder's office. The atmosphere was solemn and stern. The great elder looked at the queen who was tied up and slowly asked, "Queen, do you not intend to give this old man an explanation?" The queen bit her lip. "First elder, I was worried about Miss Yun's safety and wanted to stop her, but I couldn't find her, so I came back." Although First Elder would not abolish her position as Empress for Yin Luofeng, but the king would definitely be dissatisfied with her because of this and would not even look at her in the future. Therefore, she could never admit to what she had done. "Queen, even if you didn't do anything wrong, you have to be punished for going to the back of the mountain without permission." The great elder's tone was stern, and his eyes were cold and solemn. "Men, lock up the queen and let her reflect on her mistakes for 3 months. "Yes, Grand Elder." The 2 guards stepped forward and made an inviting gesture to the queen. "Your Majesty, please." The queen smiled miserably, her sorrowful eyes staring at Xian Yuan. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. "Your Majesty, no matter what I did it for you, but you hurt me every time." Xian Yuan paused and looked up at the queen's pitiful eyes. Although he had no feelings for this woman, he felt guilty at this moment. Chapter 1561. Empress, you shouldn't have gone to the back of the mountain. Xian Yuan shook his head and sighed helplessly. "Empress, I know you value Lady Yin very much. That's why I decided to risk my life to persuade her to come back. If I break the rules because of this, I am willing to accept the punishment." After the Empress said this, she did not look at Xian Yuan again. Her expression was like a warrior rushing to the battlefield, determined and without regret. Xian Yuan felt even more apologetic. He originally thought that the Empress suddenly went to the back of the mountain to deal with Yun Luofeng. He did not expect that in the end, he had misunderstood her. Thinking of how angry he was just now, Xian Yuan's face was full of guilt. The woman he loved had been gone for many years. As her sister, the Empress not only did he not take good care of her, but he also treated her coldly. Therefore, at this moment, Xian Yuan decided that he would definitely change his attitude towards the Empress in the future. There were not many women as kind as her anymore. "Empress," the great elder sighed and said sincerely, "This time, the Empress did break the rules. That's why I punished her. However, you can also see what the Empress has done for you. I hope you will treat her well in the future." "Yes, great elder." Xian Yuan's expression was respectful, but his eyes glanced in the direction the Empress left. After a moment of silence, ordered, "Servants, I will be staying at the Empress' residence today. Arrange it immediately." In the 2 years since he married the Empress, they had always lived separately. Until now, the Empress' actions had changed him. He finally understood that he should cherish the people in front of him and not wait until he lost them to regret. The huge pit was like the mouth of a giant beast. The rolling flames could instantly devour people and annihilate them. At this moment, within the flames, Yun Luofeng sat cross-legged. Her tightly furrowed brows revealed her pain. What was the combination of ice and fire? No one felt it more than Yun Luofeng. The left side of her body was shrouded in flames, while the right side turned into blue water. However, the feeling that this water gave her was not clear, but cold. Yes, it was cold. It was as if the cold of the 12th lunar month made her body shiver. But the left side was like a sea of flames. The intense pain spread through her soul and did not dissipate. Boom! Suddenly, the blue water turned into a water dragon and fought fiercely with the beast formed by the flames in the deep pit. The water dragon and the ferocious beast were equally matched, and the battle was even more intense. Previously, the water dragon's body had been bound by the metal chains, causing it to be unable to unleash its full strength. Only now did Yun Luofeng realize how powerful this water dragon was. If it was still alive, wouldn't it be invincible in the continent? But no matter how strong the water dragon was, it was no match for a beast made of flames. Even if water countered fire, it was still at a disadvantage in the battle. If the fire dragon and water dragon remained in balance within Yun Luofeng's body, then perhaps this crisis would be resolved. Once one side gained the upper hand, the one with the upper hand would defeat the opponent and swallow Yun Luofeng. Other than fire, everyone else, pass your power to me. Yun Luofeng steeled his heart and ordered. The reason why Hua Hua was removed was because Hua Hua was a fire-type spiritual beast. Not only would she not be able to help her, she would even increase the power of the reincarnation flame. Chapter 1562. Yes, Master. In an instant, a powerful force was transmitted from her soul. Yun Luofeng hurriedly gathered all the power and transferred it to the water dragon's body. The water dragon let out an angry roar, and its strength rapidly increased. It was originally at a disadvantage, but now it was on par with the beast. Withdraw. Yun Luofeng shouted softly. The water dragon and the beast instantly disappeared and were absorbed into her body. Through her divine sense, she could see that there were 2 spots of light, one red and one blue, occupying the left and right sides of her soul. These 2 spots of light were eyeing her like a tiger watching its prey, waiting for the moment the opponent's strength weakened to defeat it in one fell swoop. Perhaps it was because Yun Luofeng had tamed the flaming beast. The surrounding flames quickly retreated to the side, opening up a path for her. Master, I don't know if your encounter this time is a blessing or a curse. Little Mo's voice was filled with helplessness. Although we helped the water dragon just now, we can only help for a while, not forever. If the water dragon is defeated by the reincarnation flame, your soul will immediately turn into ashes." Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment and asked, "What's the solution?" "Find a water attribute item that can increase the water dragon's strength. Let them reside in your body at the same time, and they will maintain a state of balance for a period of time." As a human, Yin Luofeng could not digest the water dragon, so she could only use the reincarnation flame to suppress it. Although a part of the water dragon had entered the gold-seeking rat's stomach, that bit of soul did not have much effect on the water dragon. Even so, the water dragon was not a match for the flaming beast. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. Powerful spiritual energy swarmed into Yun Luofeng's body. Yin Luofeng hurriedly sat down cross-legged, allowing the wind to blow up her hair. "Master, congratulations. You can finally break through to the Saint Lord level. On the 7 continents, only the Saint Lord had the right to stand above all living beings and look down on all heroes." At the same time, everyone in the country felt the shocking movement in the back mountain, and their gazes swept towards the back mountain. They saw a whirlpool spiraling in the sky above the back mountain. The whirlpool contained boundless power and a deep pressure that made those with lower strength unable to straighten their bodies. Back mountain. Xian Yuan and the queen were watching intently. Compared with the urgency of the man beside her, the queen's eyes were filled with nervousness and worry. Why did this happen? How could there be someone breaking through in the deserted back mountain? Could it be Yin Luofeng? No, impossible. Yin Luofeng was already dead. The person who had broken through was definitely not her. Just as the queen was filled with anxiety, the sound of footsteps came from behind her. Xian Yuan turned his head and looked at the elders who had rushed over. He said respectfully, "Great Elder, you're here?" The Great Elder's voice was filled with excitement as he stared unblinkingly at the back mountain where the storm was coming from. Even his voice had changed subconsciously. "After so many years in our kingdom, there is finally someone who has broken through to the Saint Realm. It is truly a cause for celebration. I wonder who it is that has broken through. Could there be an expert from our kingdom hidden in the back mountain?" This was not impossible. He had placed a ban on the back of the mountain, but that did not mean that there were no living people in the back of the mountain. After all, the ban had been in place for more than a decade. More than a decade ago, there were still people who went to the back mountain. It was just that at that time, he was afraid of the dangers in the back mountain, so he didn't ask people to search for survivors. Chapter 1563. Therefore, someone must be hiding in the back of the mountain and had broken through to become a saint. The reason why they didn't link this to Yin Luofeng was because Yin Luofeng didn't reveal much of his abilities after arriving in this country. What kind of existence was a saint? How could a young lady like her break through to this realm? This was completely impossible. Whoosh! Just at this moment, a sudden powerful force sent chills down everyone's spines. When they looked up, they saw a black figure rushing towards them from the void. When he arrived in front of them, they finally saw the person in the void. This was an extremely handsome man. His cold eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. His hands were behind his back as he stood in the void. He was like a king, high above and looking down on all living beings. In this man's deep and cold eyes, it was as if no one could see their reflection. It was so cold that it pushed people thousands of miles away. The moment the Empress saw this man, her eyes were filled with amazement. She originally thought that the Empress was the most handsome man in the world. Her aura was unparalleled. However, compared to this cold man who looked like a king, Xian Yuan was as insignificant as a speck of dust. If she hadn't fallen in love with the Empress and met this man first, she would have fallen in love with him without hesitation. However, her heart already belonged to Xian Yuan. No matter how outstanding he wouldn't be able to touch her heart. Thinking about this, the Empress subconsciously turned to look at the man next to her and stared at him in a daze. "Who are you?" The Great Elder's face darkened. This man wasn't from their country. Otherwise, It was impossible that he hadn't seen such a powerful person before. The man didn't say anything. He pursed his cold lips and stared at the place where the storm was coming from. His eyes that were originally filled with coldness were now filled with gentleness. "Are you the person who broke through in the back of the mountain?" The great elder frowned and asked, because ever since this man appeared, the storm of breakthrough had gradually weakened. This proved that the person had already completed his breakthrough. But why was it that this man's eyes made it seem as if there was another person in that place? What puzzled the great elder even more was why such a mysterious man would appear out of nowhere in the back of their country's mountain. This young master, Xian Yuan, frowned. "Who are you, Scram?" The man snorted coldly. His expression was no longer as gentle as before. Instead, it was cold and murderous. His black eyes glanced coldly at Xian Yuan, his face expressionless. "King, he's too impudent." The queen stomped her foot angrily and raised her head to look at the cold man in the void. "This place is our country's territory. An outsider like you has appeared here without even a word of explanation. Aren't you afraid that we'll kill you?" The man's expression was cold, and he directly ignored the queen. Even looking at him was equivalent to insulting her own eyes. The queen's face was flushed with anger. Just as she was about to yell at him, she saw a little head on the man's shoulder. It was a dark green insect with a body as green as jade. It was so beautiful that it made people want to hold it in their hands and play with it. But this insect's eyes seemed to be filled with contempt. That's right, it was contempt. It was as if it was mocking the queen for overestimating herself. "King, look at them." The queen clenched her fists angrily. Even a little bug dared to look down on her. Chapter 1564. Xian Yuan raised his hand to stop the queen as he stared vigilantly at the black-robed man in the sky. He did not know why, but this man gave him a vague sense of danger. It was as if he could destroy an entire country with just a lift of his hand. The man's cold and unfeeling gaze gradually turned into tenderness. He stared fixedly at the empty space in front of him as his cold, stiff lips unwittingly curled into a shallow smile. His smile was very faint, so faint that it was almost invisible. Even so, that faint smile was imprinted in everyone's eyes. It was nothing more than this to be able to captivate all living things. He really did not smile, but when he smiled, he stunned all living things. Everyone looked at the man's gaze, perhaps wanting to know why this cold and unfeeling man had undergone such a huge change. Just as everyone's attention was focused on him, a snow-white dress entered their line of sight. The woman's robes were whiter than snow, and she was extremely beautiful. Her entire body was filled with an awe-inspiring evil aura, but it disappeared when she saw the man standing in the sky. Their eyes met, filled with indescribable tenderness and sweetness. The man opened his arms slightly, and his black robes fluttered in the light breeze. His gaze was serious and warm as he stared at the woman in white not too far away, as if he wanted to carve her figure firmly into his mind. Suddenly, the woman ran wildly towards the man and quickly rushed into his arms. The man held the woman's slender waist tightly as they kissed passionately in the air. 3 years. This separation had been 3 years. During these 3 years, no one would know how he had spent his time. If he had not believed that Yin Luofeng was not dead, then he would definitely not have endured it. The queen's face was already pale with fright. Yin Luofeng was not dead? How was that possible? Furthermore, looking at the situation, Yin Luofeng and that black-robed man were a couple. Then what about all that she had done previously? If she had known that Yin Luofeng already had a lover, why would she have had to deal with her so painstakingly? The queen could not help but bite her lip as her body trembled gently. At this moment, everyone's gaze was on the man and woman in the air who were passionately kissing. Hence, no one noticed the queen's strange behavior. This girl's power seems to have undergone an earth-shattering change. A look of surprise flashed across the great elder's eyes. We've been wrong from the beginning. The person who has broken through here is this girl. In the beginning, the great elder had not been able to clearly see Yin Luofeng's strength, But at that time, had Yin Luo Feng not made him feel some fear? However, this woman gave him an unfathomable feeling. Moreover, the aura that was faintly exuding from his body made him feel fearful. What did this mean? It meant that Yin Luo Feng had reached the saint realm. I finally meet you. The man's voice was magnetic and hoarse, full of temptation as usual. Yin Xiao, I miss you. Her heartfelt words caused the man's expression to change subtly again. He hugged the woman in front of him tightly and kissed her passionately again. After a long time, he finally let go of the woman in his arms. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. His cold and expressionless face was like melting ice. The woman's figure was deeply reflected in his black eyes. Mistress, I finally meet you. You're even more beautiful than I had imagined. Little Worm, who was lying on Yin Zhao's shoulder, shook his head and spoke to Yin Luo Feng in an ingratiating manner. Chapter 1565. What joke, this was its mistress. If it didn't please her and she threw it away in a fit of anger, who would it cry to? Worm. Yin Luo Feng finally noticed the little fellow on the man's shoulder and raised his brows. Little Worm was a little dissatisfied, but it didn't dare to show it. It could only defend itself with all its might. I'm not a worm, I'm a dragon. A dragon. Yin Luo Feng stroked his chin and smiled at Little Worm. Yin Xiao, I'm hungry. Her sinister and cunning expression made Little Worm tremble all over. It couldn't help but take a few steps back, its two claws clutching its chest tightly. It didn't taste good. It didn't taste good at all. Master. So, the terrified Little Worm turned to look at Yin Xiao and complained pitifully. Mistress wants to eat your pet. Yin Xiao ignored Little Worm and looked seriously at Yin Luo Feng. Do you like steamed or braised? Patter. Little Worm heard the sound of its heart breaking and its entire body turned to stone, as if it couldn't believe its own ears. Sob, sob. Can Master be so unscrupulous? Mistress wants to eat it, and Master has to give it away? What a pity that it hadn't seen enough of this world before it was tricked by this heartless couple. At this moment, Little Worm had never regretted as much as it did now. If it had another chance, it would rather be sealed for millions of years than leave that place with Yin Xiao. Yin Luo Feng smiled. Her smile was very beautiful, so beautiful that it moved one's heart. I think worm meat isn't good for nourishment. I'm a dragon, a dragon. No matter how worried Little Worm was about becoming Yin Luo Feng's food, at this moment, for the sake of its dignity as a dragon, it still decided to stand up for its own reputation. Yin Xiao. Has this little fellow come up with a name? Yin Luo Feng continued to ask Yin Xiao as if he hadn't heard what it said. No, in Yin Zhao's heart. Only Yin Luo Feng was worthy of his attention, asking him to give a worm. No, give a dragon a name? Not even in his next life. Then, in the future, Yin Luo Feng narrowed his eyes. Call it Little Worm. No! Despair appeared in the depths of Little Worm's eyes. It looked at Yin Xiao in agony. Master, I'm your pet. You're so powerful and noble. You can't possibly let your pet have such a retarded name. Otherwise, it would be a disgrace to you. Furthermore, I'm not a worm, I'm a dragon. Yin Xiao glanced at him coldly and turned to Yin Luo Feng. All right. At this moment, Little Worm felt like his worldview had been shattered. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. It also understood that Yin Xiao would listen to Yin Luo Feng no matter what. Even if Yin Luo Feng asked him to jump off a cliff, he would jump down without hesitation. Why? Why did it meet such a lovesick master? It was fine that he was infatuated with love, but why should he be the one suffering? Little Worm wiped away his tears, his eyes filled with despair towards this world. Yin Xiao, why are you here? Yin Luo Feng seemed to have thought of something and asked. Yin Xiao answered seriously. I chased the remnants of the poison valley here and accidentally stepped into the place where the little worm was sealed. Unexpectedly, even I myself was sealed. I spent almost 3 years before I was able to undo this seal and collect the spoil of war along the way. Yin Luo Feng was silent for a moment before he raised his head to look at the man's handsome and cold face. Chapter 1566. Logically speaking, we should have been trapped in this place and unable to leave this country. But just now, I've already removed the seal on this country. We can also leave this place. This seal was the water dragon. Now that the water dragon had disappeared, the seal had also been removed. What? Her voice was neither loud nor soft, and it fell right into the crowd. Hearing this, the great elder could not contain his excitement. What did you just say? The seal on our country has been removed? That's right. Yin Luofeng's gaze swept across the crowd. The seal has been removed, but whether you can leave the hidden God Mountain will depend on your own abilities. Also, before we leave, I have one more thing to settle. As she spoke, her gaze slowly fell upon the Empress. An evil smile appeared on her lips, making her look especially sinister. The Empress' face was as white as snow, without any color. When she met the woman's eerie eyes, she retreated a few steps again, her lips trembling slightly. Boom! A wave of spiritual energy swept over and sent the Empress' body flying. With a loud bang, she crashed into the back of the crowd. The crowd was stunned. Perhaps they did not understand why Yin Luofeng would attack the Empress. Empress! The great elder paled in shock. He looked at Yin Luofeng in confusion. Miss Yin, what are you doing? The Empress went to the back of the mountain to find you because she did not want you to take any risks. She wanted to drag you back. Yin Luofeng chuckled. Her slightly raised eyes were filled with dominance and insolence. You did not want me to take any risks. Are you sure? In an instant, everyone's gazes gathered on the Empress once again. Their eyes were filled with suspicion. Could it be that the Empress had done something out of line to Yin Luofeng? I, Yin Luofeng, am able to stand at the peak with my own abilities. Why should I spy on a mere Empress? I don't even care about the throne, much less the Empress. Her voice was extremely arrogant. Like a meteorite, it struck everyone's hearts. However, you thought that I wanted to snatch your position and did not hesitate to push me into the abyss. If not for my better luck, I'm afraid I would have been annihilated in the abyss. Xian Yuan's body froze. He slowly turned his head, his gray eyes filled with anger and disbelief. Queen, can you give me an explanation? No, it's not like that. She's lying. King, you have to believe me. I love you so much. How could I do such a thing that harms others and myself? The queen knelt and crawled toward Xian Yuan. She hugged his legs tightly and wept as she said. Xian Yuan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his eyes were filled with pain. Why are you still lying at a time like this? Miss Yin has no enmity with you, so why would she frame you? The queen fell silent. If Yin Xiao had not appeared, she would have definitely accused Yin Luofeng of wanting to frame him because he had taken a fancy to Xian Yuan. Now, this black-robed man was so outstanding. How could the other party give up on such an outstanding man to steal Xian Yuan? Seeing that the queen did not speak, Xian Yuan sneered and used his hands to push her arms away from his legs. His eyes were filled with disappointment. He had thought that the queen was kind-hearted and had given up everything for him. That was why he had taken care of her during this period of time. But who knew that in the end, he was actually deceived by her? Chapter 1567. The queen took 2 steps back and smiled pitifully. Tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes as she spoke in a self-deprecating manner. Queen Yumi and my sister, the 3 of us grew up together. From then on, I fell in love with you, but you only had eyes for my sister. My looks were not as good as hers, nor was my strength. After you became queen, the elders decided to make her the empress. Do you know how jealous I was at that time? Xian Yuan looked at the queen coldly. So, you murdered her? The queen's expression froze, and panic flashed across her eyes. Seeing her expression suddenly change, the anger in Xian Yuan's heart began to burn. Did you really murder her? Actually, Xian Yuan was just testing the queen. If it was in the past, he would never have suspected the queen. Now that the queen's true colors had been exposed, he began to have doubts, but the queen's expression had proven everything. Boom! Xian Yuan was furious. He grabbed the queen's neck with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared angrily. She is your sister. Both of you grew up without parents. She was the one who raised you. How could you bear to kill her?" The queen's throat was choked by his large hand. She could not speak. Her face was red and filled with despair. She did not regret killing her sister. In order to become queen, she would rather kill everyone in the world than let anyone snatch him from her. However, what the queen had done to her had chilled her. The elders stood at the side and did not stop the queen. The queen had made a huge mistake and should be punished. Furthermore, they also understood that the queen would not really kill the queen. At most, he would cripple her. In their country, there was no precedent of the death penalty. As expected, after venting his anger, the queen let go of his hand. His palm was still trembling and his eyes were filled with hatred. Men, drag the queen away, cripple her strength, and expel her from the country. Yes, queen. Just as the two guards were about to step forward, a powerful force suddenly swooped down from the void and pierced through the queen's body. The queen's body froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Blood spread from her chest. She trembled and her body fell. "Queen!" Everyone was shocked and looked up at the black-robed man, standing in the void. The man's black robes fluttered gently in the breeze. His right hand gently embraced the white-robed woman next to him. His paralyzed face remained expressionless, and his expression was incomparably cold. "Young master," Great Elder's expression was a little ugly. "The queen has made a mistake, and we have decided to punish her. But isn't killing a little too much?" The man lowered his eyes and looked down at the crowd below him. His cold eyes were filled with arrogance, and a murderous aura emanated from him, causing everyone to shudder. "Your kingdom's destined queen was killed, and you didn't avenge her. Even the man who loved her deeply didn't punish the murderer for her." The man's voice was as cold and deep as ever. "But if anyone touches a hair on my wife, I'll make them bleed on the spot." So what if they killed people? For her, he could slaughter the entire world, let alone a mere woman. Xian Yuan's body stiffened. He sighed softly, and a bitter smile appeared on his handsome face. Chapter 1568. If he had this man's boldness, would the woman he loved not have died so early? "Yin Xiao, let's go." Yin Luofeng smiled and looked at the man's side profile. Her voice was lazy. "All right." Yin Xiao smiled at him. His arm wrapped around the woman's waist. He took a step, and they were already 30 meters away. "Wait a minute." Great Elder was anxious. However, before he could say anything, the two of them had already disappeared. "Great Elder, this time, we can finally leave this damned place." Everyone's heart was filled with joy. Only Great Elder's face was filled with worry. The ancestor left a message. "The person who can break the restriction is the person sent by the gods to us. Now that she has left, what should we do?" Great Elder didn't know that the intention of the ancestor's message was to leave behind hope for the future generations. But the ancestor himself didn't expect that after so many years, a woman named Yin Luofeng would appear and break the restriction for this country, Hidden God Mountain. The grass was flourishing. A powerful aura spread throughout the entire mountain range. If it was someone with lower strength, they might immediately turn and flee in fright from this powerful aura. Needless to say, Yin Luofeng's luck was rather good. When she first came to Hidden God Mountain, she encountered the cave group. Now that she was planning to leave, she once again encountered a group of skeletons. Looking at the skeletons that were waving their bone clubs and rushing over, Yin Xiao expressionlessly ordered the little worm that was dozing off on his shoulder, "Finish the battle quickly." "Oh." The little worm responded and was planning to fight the skeletons. But at this moment, Yin Luofeng stopped it. "These skeletons have a grudge against me." Yin Luofeng's lips curled into a sinister smile. "So let me deal with them." She wouldn't forget that when she stepped in a Hidden God Mountain, she was chased by this group of skeletons. Now that she had finally broken through to the Saint Realm, she must personally take revenge. Hua! When she finished speaking, Yin Luofeng had already rushed into the group of skeletons. She, who had once been chased by the skeletons, finally had the strength to deal with them at this moment. Even so, because these skeletons were indestructible and didn't know pain. Even if Yin Luofeng broke through to the Saint Monarch realm, it would still be difficult for him to destroy this undying battle team. This won't do. If this goes on, I won't be able to hold on. Yin Luofeng raised his hand and took out a stalk of spirit medicine. He didn't chew it carefully before swallowing it. The physical strength and spirit power that he had originally consumed were gradually recovering. Not far away, Yin Xiao watched Yin Luofeng's battle with a calm expression, but he had already made his preparations. If Yin Luofeng couldn't defeat these skeletons, he would make a move. Little Mo, do you know why these dead people became the skeleton battle team? Yin Luofeng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked with his soul. Little Mo's voice came from his soul. I don't know the specifics, but did you see the green willow, the wisps in each skeleton's eyes? These the wisps are souls, but they're not the skeleton's souls. Not the skeleton's souls? Yin Luofeng's eyes flickered. She seemed to have understood something and hurriedly closed her eyes. The surrounding noise instantly dissipated, and it was as if she was the only one in the entire world. Chapter 1569. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, and a powerful force suddenly erupted when the skeletons had arrived in front of her. After that, countless dark green spirit flames floated into the eyes of the skeletons. At this moment, the skeletons had already stopped moving. In their eye sockets, two dark green flames were fighting endlessly. Everyone wanted to take control. Yin Luofeng did not relax. She had split her own spiritual power, and only her own spiritual power could control these skeletons. Of course, if Yin Luofeng had not swallowed the water dragon spirit and caused her own soul to grow, she would never have used such a risky method to control the skeletons. Finally, Yin Luofeng's spirit flames took control and swallowed the opponent's spirit flames. Her body softened, and the moment she fell into a warm embrace. Yin Xiao hugged the woman in his arms tightly as a sense of heartache flashed across his black eyes. Yin Xiao, I'm fine. Yin Luofeng curled the corners of her lips. She knew what Yin Xiao wanted to say, so before he could speak, she said, My soul can gradually recover. You don't have to worry. Besides, I don't want to rely on you for everything. I want to walk side by side with you. Honestly, she could have asked Yin Xiao to help her subdue these puppets from the very beginning. But with Yin Xiao's power, he would only be able to destroy these puppets. Since that was the case, she might as well make them her own and use them to increase her power. At the same time, in the depths of the hidden god mountain, a woman who was sitting cross-legged suddenly opened her eyes. With a puff, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was deathly pale, and her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Who was it? Who swallowed my spirit flames? And who took away my skeleton battle team? If I find out who did this, I will not let them off. She gritted her teeth as she spat out the last few words. Her own spirit flames had been swallowed, and she would need to recuperate for a long time before she could recover. How could she forgive the person who had swallowed her spirit flames? Yin Luofeng did not know what had happened in the depths of the hidden god mountain. After subduing the skeletons, she had followed Yin Xiao and left the hidden god mountain. But she could sense that Imo Qiansheng, who was in the shaman demon tribe's formation, was beginning to stir, and he seemed to be about to leave the formation. This feeling caused Yin Luofeng's heart to tremble. Imo Qiansheng loved Zhu Qian deeply. In order to save Ji Jiuqian and himself, she had impersonated Zhu Qian. If Imo Qiansheng were to leave the array and find out about Yun Zhao's existence, he would definitely go crazy. However, Imo Qiansheng was the center of the formation. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be able to leave the formation. So why was he so restless now? Yin Luofeng's heart gradually sank. She had to quickly increase her strength to deal with the upcoming problems. Furthermore, she must not let Imo Qiansheng hurt Yun Xiao in the slightest. Master, Little Mo's voice trembled when he noticed this. Now that the situation is pressing, I must raise my strength to the level where I can fight against Mo Qiansheng in the remaining time. Yin Luofeng clenched her fists, her beautiful face full of determination. Yin Zhao's sword-like brows gently knitted together as his black eyes turned towards Yin Luofeng and asked what happened. Yin Luofeng was stunned. She regained her composure and stared deeply at the man in front of her. Her tone was firm. Yin Xiao, I will never let you leave me. Chapter 1570. This should be the place. Not long after Yin Luofeng left, a man and a woman slowly descended from the sky, their gazes fixed on the hidden god mountain before them. Among the two, the woman in red was beautiful and valiant, her features somewhat similar to Yin Zhao's. The man was as gentle as jade, his affectionate eyes filled with worry at this moment, but he did not forget to comfort the woman beside him. Jun Feng will definitely be fine. Let's go find her now. Jun Fengling's eyes narrowed slightly, a dangerous glint flashing across them. I hope so. If I find out who hurt my daughter-in-law, I will grind her to ashes. Yi Jingqin's gaze turned to Jun Fengling, the corners of his lips curling up slightly. Let's go, Jun. Just as they were about to step into the hidden god mountain, an old voice suddenly came from the side, filled with sorrow and sorrow. Back then, I should have stopped that girl from stepping into the hidden god mountain. I wonder if she's really in danger. Grandpa Jun's face was filled with a bitter smile, his voice filled with helplessness. Jun Fengling subconsciously looked at Grandpa Jun. When she saw the old man's wrinkled face, she couldn't help but frown. She did not know why, but this old man gave her a vague sense of familiarity. This feeling made her want to befriend him. Yi Jingchun clearly saw through his wife's thoughts. He raised his hand and patted her shoulder, then slowly walked towards Grandpa Jun and cupped his fists. Elder, are you also here to look for someone? Grandpa Jun's gaze fell on Yi Jingchun, his voice aged. That's right. May I know who you are looking for, Elder? My granddaughter. Granddaughter? Yi Jingchun was stunned, a little disappointed. Yin Luofeng had met with danger in the hidden god mountain, and now this old man was also here to look for someone. He had originally thought that they would coincidentally be looking for the same person. He did not expect that this old man was looking for his granddaughter. Fenger's grandfather was Yin Luo, so this old man was obviously not here for Feng, a brother Yi. Jun Fengling walked to Yi Jingchun's side and smiled at Grandpa Jun Sr. If you don't mind, why don't we travel together? If Yi Jingchun were to invite him, Grandpa Sheng would definitely reject him. But when he saw the woman in front of him, he fell into a trance. If his daughter was here, she would probably be the same age as the woman in front of him. However, his daughter was still in the Wuhui continent, so it was impossible for her to appear here. All right, the old man would never accept any stranger trying to get close to him, but he could not bring himself to dislike the woman in red in front of him. Subconsciously, he wanted to get close to her, cough, cough. When Yi Jingchun saw Grandpa Jun staring at his wife, he couldn't help but cough dryly. His handsome face looked a little unsightly. Grandpa Jun regained his composure, his expression somewhat awkward. His expression just now could easily be misunderstood as that of a lecher, but he couldn't help but want to watch her. It was not until many days later that Jun Fengling and Grandpa Jun finally understood what it meant to be fated. Willow Town. The market was extremely noisy, and the vendors' shouts rose and fell. From afar, Yin Luofeng saw a familiar figure, and his eyes flashed with surprise. Chapter 1571. Huang Yingying? Why was she here? At that moment, Huang Yingying seemed to have sensed someone looking at her. She raised her head and looked in that direction. In that instant, she was completely stunned as she stared at Yin Luofeng. Huang Yingying. When Yin Luofeng spoke those three names, Huang Yingying's body suddenly trembled. She hurriedly covered her trembling lips to prevent herself from screaming out loud. Miss Yin! She had finally seen her. Suddenly, Huang Yingying's light yellow dress streaked across the sky and stood in front of Yin Luofeng. She stared at the woman in white in front of her and asked word by word, Are you really? Miss Yin? Was she dreaming? Huang Yingying, why are you here? Compared to 3 years ago, the woman's voice was even more mature and steady. The only thing that didn't change was her demonic tone. Miss Yun, Huang Yingying smiled. Her ice-cold face, like a melting ice cube, was filled with warmth at this moment. When I heard that you were still alive, I went to the Jun family to find you. Who knew that I was one step too late and you had already left? In order to find you, I chased you all the way to this place. Who would have thought that we would meet here? In reality, Yin Luofeng didn't have much feelings for Huang Yingying. She had helped her because they had a common enemy. It wasn't because of Huang Yingying, but now it seemed that Huang Yingying hadn't had a good time during the 3 years he had been missing. The girl who had been as graceful as an oriole had unknowingly been covered with coldness. Looking at Huang Yingying's blossoming smile, Yin Luofeng's heart was moved. It was an unintentional help, but it had helped her obtain a person who had given her his true heart, Miss Yingying. Suddenly, an anxious voice came from behind Huang Yingying. At that moment, Yin Luofeng could clearly feel Huang Yingying's body stiffen. When Yin Luofeng looked up, he saw a man dressed in luxurious clothes appear next to Huang Yingying. His face was full of joy. I thought I was seeing things. I didn't think that it was really you. Young Master Ling Shuang, please conduct yourself with dignity. Huang Yingying frowned slightly when she saw the luxurious man raising his hand to pull Huang Yingying's arm. She instinctively dodged and said coldly. The man's body shook and his eyes were filled with sorrow. Yingying, it's only been 3 years. Why have you changed? Huang Yingying sneered and glanced coldly at the man's handsome face. 3 years ago, your father came looking for me and warned me not to get close to you. Now, it's me who looks down on you. Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly. It seemed that after Huang Yingying left the Sorcerer Demon tribe 3 years ago, she did not follow Hong Wan. Instead, something happened between her and the young master of the North Continent Prefecture. If he wasn't wrong, this man called Ling Shuang was Hong Wan's ex-fiancé's younger brother. Ling Shuang clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with pain. He did not understand. How could this beautiful girl become so cold? Miss Yun, Huang Yingying ignored Ling Shuang and turned to smile at Yin Luofeng. Don't worry about him. Let's go. Yin Luofeng nodded slightly. Later, tell me what happened between you and the North Continent Prefecture. Huang Yingying's body was a little stiff, as if recalling those unbearable memories. Her face was a little pained. Okay. Chapter 1572. In the inn. It was simple and clean. Huang Yingying poured a cup of tea for Yin Luofeng before sitting in front of her. 3 years ago, the leader of the Sorcerer Demon tribe asked me to use the Sorcerer Demon flower to save Lady Hong Wan, so I left the Sorcerer Demon tribe. Moreover, after Lady Hong Wan woke up, I wanted to train by myself. It was also during my training that I met Ling Shuang. Huang Yingying's smile was bitter. Ling Shuang doesn't have the arrogant temperament of a typical young master. His personality is very gentle, and he takes care of me everywhere. I have never experienced love before, so I fell into it. But after the Continent Lord found out about us, he came to find me and ordered me to leave Ling Shuang. Yin Luofeng took a sip of tea and raised his eyebrows slightly. He did not know that you were the Holy Virgin of the Witch Demon tribe. Huang Yingying shook her head. I did not tell Ling Shuang my identity. When the Continent Lord came to find me, the 2 people that the leader sent to protect me wanted to stand up for me. But I stopped them. The Continent Lord's residence of the North Continent is so powerful, so why should I stick to him? If he wants to find someone of equal status for Ling Shuang, then let him find one. I no longer care about the position of the young madam of the Continent Lord's residence. The Continent Lord's residence of the North Continent was the power that dominated the North Continent. However, the Witch Demon tribe came from the highly ranked Central Continent. Furthermore, the power of the Witch Demon tribe could even be compared to the Continent Lord's residence of the Central Continent. If there had not been a traitor in the Witch Demon tribe back then, with the strength of the leader of the Witch Demon tribe, even if all the powerful cultivators of the Poison Valley came, he could destroy them without even taking a breath One could imagine how powerful the witch-demon tribe was in the central continent. It could be said that as long as the central continent existed, the legacy of the witch-demon tribe would also be as long as it existed. If not for the changes that happened in the tribe many years ago, perhaps the witch-demon tribe would have become a power that surpassed all the continents. How did Ling Shuang treat you? Yin Luofeng thought for a while and asked. Huang Yingying's body trembled, and she lowered her eyes slightly. Ling Shuang treated me very well, but he was not firm enough. If Ling Shuang could be more resolute, perhaps their ending would not be like this. His father found a fiancée for him. He didn't accept it, but he didn't reject it either. He just told me to wait. Huang Yingying laughed bitterly. He said that one day, his father would accept us. But in the end, what I got was a warning from his father. After saying this, Huang Yingying looked up at Yin Luofeng and bit her lip. Back then, I returned to the shaman demon tribe in tears. When I learned of your death, the tribe chief lied to me. He said that if I completed the inheritance, you would return. 3 years ago, when she heard the news of Yin Luofeng's death, she almost broke down. Coupled with the heartbreak, she wanted to give up on herself. However, the clan leader's words gave her confidence and hope. Huang Yingying's heart was filled with guilt. The clan leader had done this for her sake. She really shouldn't have been so cruel to him. Yin Luofeng stroked her chin. She had almost forgotten about the North Continent Prefecture. By the way, Miss Yin, I heard that you went to the hidden God Mountain to find the Ghost Emperor. Did you find him? Yin Luofeng raised his eyes slightly and said with a smile, because I recently lacked medicinal herbs, so he just went to the medicine shop to buy them. I was originally waiting for him at the market, but who knew that I would meet you? Whether it was the small tree or the gold-seeking rat, they both used medicinal herbs as nutrients. Now, there was another pet that used medicinal herbs as food, Little Worm. Chapter 1573. Miss Yin, Huang Yingying smiled faintly. Her eyes and brows were curved and looked extremely beautiful. What are your plans after this? Plans? Yin Luofeng paused for a moment before a cold light flashed across her eyes. My top priority right now is to increase my power. She would not only have to face the Sacred Lady clan, but also Mo Qiansheng, who was eyeing her covetously. Besides, her lies could fool Mo Qiansheng for a while, but they could not fool him forever. He would eventually see through them. That's right. Huang Yingying suddenly remembered something. I remember that Hong Wan had gone to the Beast Continent, and there was no news of her after that. When news of your survival had spread, the people of the East Continent wanted to find Hong Wan. However, they had searched the entire Beast Continent and could not find any trace of Hong Wan. Just then, the room door was pushed open. Yin Luofeng turned around, and when she saw the black-robed man slowly walking in, the corners of her lips curled into a wicked smile. Yin Xiao, have you finished your business? Yin Xiao paused and asked, You want to go to the Beast Continent? Hong Wan's whereabouts were unknown in the Beast Continent. Based on Yin Luofeng's character, she would certainly head to the Beast Continent. Yes. Yin Luofeng's eyes were pitch black. I want to find Hong Wan. All right, I'll go with you. Yin Xiao gently raised the corners of her lips. Besides, I have some forces in the Beast Continent. This time, I'll take this opportunity to hand those people over to you. Ever since Yin Luofeng had arrived on the 7 continents, she had not seen the forces that Yin Xiao had established. Since she had decided to scout the way for Yin Luofeng, she could not possibly leave empty-handed. Now, Yin Luofeng finally found out that Yin Xiao's forces were all in the Beast Continent. Yin Xiao, when you're being hunted down, why did you not use the forces in your hands? Hearing this, the man fell silent. After a long pause, he replied honestly, I had prepared those people for you. I would not allow any casualties. Besides, I don't think that the people who were hunting me could really hurt me. This sentence was domineering and awe-inspiring. The man's expressionless face was cold and murderous. A storm seemed to be brewing in his dark eyes. I know the way to the Beast Continent. Huang Yingying bit her lips. To get to the Beast Continent, we need to pass through the Northern Continent. When we reach the Beast Continent, we will come across a desert. Once we cross the desert, we will be able to reach the Beast Continent. The North Continent. Huang Yingying's heart still trembled when she said those two words. Return to the Sorcerer Demon Tribe. Yin Luofeng turned to look at Huang Yingying and said calmly, the leader of the Sorcerer Demon Tribe should be looking for you. Moreover, Yin Zhao's power was in the Beast Continent, so he would definitely be very familiar with the route to the Beast Continent. No. Huang Yingying shook her head and said, I plan to accept the Sorcerer Tribe to help you. Before I find Miss Hong Wan, I won't go back. After saying this, Huang Yingying lifted her skirt and walked in front of Yin Luofeng. She half-knelt on the ground, her expression respectful and firm. Miss Yin, please allow me to follow you. I will never turn my back on you for the rest of my life. Yin Luofeng lowered his eyes and stared at the young girl's determined expression. Suddenly, she laughed. If you follow me, you will have to endure many dangers and hardships. Perhaps you might not even be able to hold on to your life in the next moment. If that's the case, do you still want to follow me? Huang Yingying smiled bitterly. My loved ones have been murdered. If it wasn't for the sake of revenge, I would have followed them long ago. Now that I have my revenge, even if I lose my life, I have no regrets. Chapter 1574. All right, that's your choice. I'll keep you by my side from now on. Yin Luofeng raised his hand and helped Huang Yingying up. His voice was evil and calm. Huang Yingying was delighted. To be honest, she was already prepared to be rejected. Who knew that Yin Luofeng would actually accept? Miss, to get to the Beast Continent, we have to go through the Northern Continent. I'm worried that the people in the Northern Continent might not let us pass. Every city gate in the Northern Continent was guarded. If they wanted to pass through the Northern Continent, they had to go through the city gates. If the Northern Continent was not willing to let them pass, they would have to use force. Otherwise, they would not be able to get to the Beast Continent. Why is the Northern Continent not willing to let us pass? Even if she had enmity with Ling Chun from the Northern Continent, he couldn't have posted her portrait at the city gates just to prevent them from passing. The Ghost Emperor should know about this. The Beast Continent is different from the other continents. In the Beast Continent, most of the people are spiritual beasts. There are very few humans. Moreover, the Beast Clan likes to attack humans. As such, the relationship between the other continents and the Beast Continent is not good. However, the Beast Continent is the most powerful of all the continents, a territory established by spiritual beasts to be able to stand firm against so many humans. One could imagine the power of the Beast Continent. As such, the city gate between the Beast Continent and the Beast Continent is heavily guarded. The humans in the Beast Continent can come out, but they will not let any humans in. I don't think that the people in the Northern Continent would be so kind as to prevent humans from going to the Beast Continent. Yin Luofeng asked slowly. Huang Yingying shook her head helplessly. Miss, humans are greedy. The spiritual beasts in the Beast Continent are all very powerful. Most of the spiritual beasts have already swallowed the man transformation fruit and turned into humans. To humans, this is a treasure that they can only dream of. As such, for many years, humans have always wanted to enter the Beast Continent and form contracts with the spiritual beasts to fight for them. At this point, Huang Yingying's voice became cautious. However, in the end, those humans instead submitted to the spiritual beasts, allowing the Beast Continent to become more and more powerful. Yin Luofeng raised an eyebrow. Why? This? Huang Yingying pursed her lips. It said that those spiritual beasts that transform into humans are all extremely beautiful, and they're even more beautiful than humans. There's also the Fox clan that's skilled in seductive arts that bewitches those men until they're willing to abandon their humanity and become their spiritual beast slaves. In order to prevent the number of strong warriors in the continent from decreasing, all the continents unanimously decided to forbid any strong warriors from entering the Beast Continent. Hence, the Beast Continent became a place where one could only leave but not enter. But any strong martial artists who left the Beast Continent would be monitored by the major powers to ensure that they would not be brainwashed by the Beast Clan. As for those weak humans who wanted to leave the Beast Continent, As soon as he left, he was secretly killed by the experts of the North Continent. How did you enter the Beast Continent at that time? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Yun Xiao as he asked with a smile that was not a smile. The place that the wormhole reaches is the Beast Continent. What about the people who were monitoring you after you left the Beast Continent? Dead. Yun Xiao's words were simple and shocking. Yin Luofeng stroked his chin with his finger. I don't know how Hong Wan managed to enter the Beast Continent, but I know that I must enter the Beast Continent. Yin Xiao, Huang Yingying, let's set off today. The earlier we go, the less danger Hong Wan will encounter. Chapter 1575. On the street. It was as noisy as before. Yun Luofeng and the others had just stepped out of the inn when they met the haunting Ling Xuan. He stared straight at Huang Yingying with undisguised adoration. Yingying, don't throw a tantrum. Come back with me. Father has already promised me that he won't stop us. Huang Yingying laughed coldly. Do you think I will believe you? How could such a snobbish person accept me? Yingying, it doesn't matter if my father accepts you or not. As long as you come back with me, I will marry you. Ling Xuan's gaze was urgent. He stepped forward to pull Huang Yingying. Huang Yingying moved to the side and dodged his hand. Her lips curled into a cold smile. Why should I believe a man without courage like you? After saying this, Huang Yingying did not look at Ling Xuan again. She stood respectfully behind Yun Luofeng. Miss, we don't have to care about him. We can continue. Miss. Ling Xuan's eyes were filled with shock. He looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. His expression did not look too good. Yingying, your servant? Huang Yingying was just a servant? Impossible. Based on Huang Yingying's temperament, how could she be someone else's servant? Even if she was just a young lady, her father might not stop her. Why was she just a servant? Oomph. Huang Yingying's gaze changed from disappointment to disgust. As expected, the people of the North Continent Prefecture were all so powerful. Why did she have to keep thinking about him? Miss, Ling Xuan's eyes flashed a few times, and she slowly walked in front of Yun Luofeng. She cupped her fists and said, I know you are Yingying's master. I wonder if you are willing to help me with something. I want you to accept Yingying as your sworn sister. This way, I can persuade my father. He did not know Yun Luofeng's identity, but looking at her temperament, even if she was not the young lady of a first-rate family, she would be at least second-rate. Even if this identity was not compatible with the North Continent Prefecture, at least there was a glimmer of hope. Yun Zhao's cold eyes gradually turned towards Ling Xuan, his eyes filled with a strong, murderous intent. This aura made Ling Xuan's body tremble. However, in order to marry Huang Yingying, he still looked at Yun Luofeng with determination. Yun Luofeng laughed. Why should I help you? Miss, you're not helping me. You're helping yourself. Ling Xuan's expression was a little unhappy. If I marry Yingying, she'll be the young madam of the North Continent's Continent Master's Mansion. Your status will rise as well. This is a very worthwhile deal. If it wasn't for Yingying, he definitely wouldn't say a word to this blind woman. North Continent Prefecture? Yun Luofeng tilted his head, his evil eyes revealing a hint of a smile. That's right. Ling Xuan held his head high and puffed out his chest. I'm the young master of the North Continent Prefecture. At this moment, Ling Xuan was waiting for Yun Luofeng's shock and fawning. If anyone else had the opportunity to see someone from the Continent Lord's mansion, they would immediately kneel down and hug their thighs without exception. But facing the arrogant Ling Xuan, the evil smile on Yun Luofeng's lips became even more pronounced. I only know that there is a Ling Chun in the North Continent Prefecture. This Ling Chun betrayed Hong Wan and wanted to pester her endlessly. In the end, he suffered retribution. Ling Xuan's body stiffened. He raised his head in shock, his startled gaze landing on Yun Luofeng. This woman knew Hong Wan? Even Huang Yingying, who was standing at the side, was stunned. Chapter 1576. She had stayed in the Northern Continent for so long, but did not know that Hong Wan and Ling Chun had such a relationship. In reality, Ling Chun had lost all face in the Eastern Continent, so how could he continue to be a topic of conversation? As such, he had ordered for all news to be sealed, so that Huang Yingying would not know about the relationship between the two of them. Wait. Seeing that Yin Luo Feng and the others were about to leave, Ling Shuang became anxious and subconsciously raised his head to grab Yin Luo Feng's arm. At this moment, the grim-faced man in black glanced at him coldly and spat out a word from his thin lips. Scram! Poochie! Ling Shuang's body flew out and landed in the inn. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his handsome face was pale. He wanted to stand up, but felt as if his body was being crushed by a mountain, and could only watch as Yin Luo Feng and the others left Northern Continent Lord's Mansion. Ling Chun furiously swept the tea on the table to the ground and angrily yelled, Scram! All of you scram! The servants were so scared that they did not even dare to say a word, and hurriedly left. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard. Ling Chun was about to explode again, but after seeing the man who had stepped into the room, he swallowed his words, and his face was still ashen. Oof! Didn't you go to find your beloved woman? What? You return home? Ling Shuang tightly clenched his fists. Big brother, do you know a woman in white? Woman in white? At that moment, a beautiful face appeared in Ling Chen's mind. It was the same face that made him grit his teeth in hatred. Why do you ask? When I went to find Yingying, I found out that she was only a servant, and her master seemed to be related to Hong Wan. Hong Wan? Ling Chun suddenly raised his head and stared at the handsome man standing in front of him. Yin Luo Feng, is it really that damned woman? Ling Shuang looked down. Big brother, do you know who Yin Luo Feng is? He's just an insignificant person. He only dared to act like a tyrant because he caught Hong Wan's eye. Ling Chun fiercely gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with viciousness. Ling Shuang was disappointed. He sighed, I originally thought that she should be a young miss of an aristocratic family, so I planned to force her to acknowledge Yingying as her younger sister and help Yingying get rid of her status as a slave. Unfortunately, her status is very low, so how could she help Yingying? Ling Chun fell silent. After a while, a vicious look flashed in his eyes. If you want to marry Huang Yingying, it's very simple. I have a way. The prerequisite is that you help me kill that woman, Yin Luo Feng. Ling Shuang was a little surprised. Help you? How can I help you? Humph, don't think that I don't know that when my body became ill, my father had gradually handed over the power of the Continent Lord's Mansion to you. Now that my father is not in the Continent Lord's Mansion, you have the right to mobilize the masters in the mansion. I want you to send those people to kill her. Ling Shuang's expression was extremely awkward. Big brother, father is also... You don't have to explain to me. It doesn't matter if I don't become the young master of the North Continent. What I want to do is to kill Yin Luo Feng. Ling Chen's fingers dug into his flesh, causing blood to flow out. However, he did not feel anything. After you help me, I'll give you an idea. This idea can make father agree to you too. Ling Shuang thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. All right, big brother, I'll do as you say. Chapter 1577. At this moment, on the streets of the Northern Continent, a beautiful scene unwittingly attracted everyone's attention. A man and a woman were walking in the middle of the street. The woman's clothes were whiter than snow, and her beauty could topple cities. Her face was slightly demonic, and her pitch-black eyes seemed to glow. The man standing beside her was handsome and cold. His black clothes were like a hawk in the night, dangerous and sharp. Logically speaking, Huang Yingying could be considered a rare beauty, but standing behind these two people, she seemed to be overshadowed. Stop. At the city gate, the two guards immediately blocked their path when they saw the group of people walking towards them. The road to the Beast Continent is in front. Without the orders of the Continent Lord, no one is allowed to pass. The guards' expressions were cold, and they were as unmoving as a mountain. Yin Xiao. Yin Luo Feng raised his eyebrows and looked at Yun Xiao with a smile. Leave these people to me. How about it? All right. Boom. As soon as Yun Xiao spoke, the ground beside Yin Luofeng trembled. Shortly after, a tattered puppet appeared beside Yin Luofeng. Yin E, kill anyone who dares to stop us. Kill, without mercy. These three words were domineering and incomparably arrogant. Yun E expressionlessly charged towards the two guards. With a boom, his fist punched out, and the guards at the city gate were immediately sent flying, their bodies heavily smashing against the city gate. Who is so bold as to come to our northern continent to cause trouble? Boom! Suddenly, a powerful force descended from the void. Not long after, an elder tore through the void and quickly arrived, standing in front of Yin Luofeng. At the same time, the sound of footsteps came from behind. Shortly after, an army surrounded Yin Luofeng and the others. Yin Luofeng, you've really worn out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. I never thought that you would dare to come to our northern continent's territory. Ha! Arrogant and sinister laughter fell into Yun Luofeng's ears like leaves blown by the wind. The army spread out, and in that instant, Ling Chun and Ling Shuang walked out from behind the army, arrogantly walking in front of Yin Luofeng and the others. Ling Shuang immediately saw Huang Yingying standing behind Yin Luofeng and hurriedly said, "Yingying, hurry and come on my side. I will protect you from harm." Faced with Ling Shuang's urgency, Huang Yingying sneered, and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. She simply turned her head and no longer looked at Ling Shuang. Ling Shuang was both angry and anxious. She really did not understand why Huang Yingying was so stubborn. She would rather be a servant than be the young madam of the continent lord's manor. Everyone, Ling Chun turned to look at the crowd, a sinister light in his eyes. This girl, called Huang Yingying, was ordered by someone to seduce my little brother and steal the treasures of the continent lord's residence. Very few people knew about Ling Chen's experiences in the eastern continent, so in the eyes of most people, Ling Chen still had a good character. Hearing Ling Chen's words, everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. Such a beautiful little girl was actually a thief? And she even risked her life to come to the continent lord's residence to steal? Big brother, what do you mean by that? Ling Shuang's expression completely changed. That's clearly not what you promised me before. Ling Chen curled his lips. Second brother, I'm doing this for your own good. I don't want you to sink into depravity because of a little servant girl. Moreover, these elders here also don't want you to make such a mistake. Chapter 1578. Even though the continent lord had passed power to Ling Shuang, as the future mistress of the continent lord's residence, how could a servant girl take on the role? As such, facing Ling Shuang's pleading gaze, the elders acted as if they did not see it. Such a daring thief deserves to die. The gray-robed elder coldly snorted, looking down at Yin Luofeng and the others. Plus, you dared to attack someone from the northern continent, so you deserve to die. Elder, Ling Shuang's lips were pale, his body trembled, and his face was filled with pain. He regretted it. He regretted trusting Ling Chun and summoning the clan's elders. Who knew that Ling Chun would not even let Yingying off? Second brother, Ling Chun sighed and walked to Ling Shuang's side, patting him on the shoulder. I'll tell you the truth. Everything I've said is backed up by evidence. Huang Yingying really did steal from the Northern Continent Palace. Otherwise, why do you think father wouldn't allow you two to be together? Ling Shuang shook his head. Impossible. Yingying is not that kind of person. Hearing this, Ling Chun subconsciously looked at the gray-robed elder. This gray-robed elder had the most authority in the Northern Continent Prefecture, so his words were more trustworthy. Young master is right. Huang Yingying did indeed steal from the Northern Continent Prefecture. The great elder's voice was hoarse as he slowly spoke. Ling Shuang would be the person in charge of the Northern Continent Prefecture. As such, in order to avoid future revenge, they could only slander Huang Yingying. Huang Yingying was dumbfounded. Her eyes widened in shock, as if she did not expect these people to frame her. Yingying, tell me, is what they said true? Ling Shuang looked at Huang Yingying in pain and asked with a trembling voice. Huang Yingying laughed mockingly. Although I don't want to marry you, I don't want to be a scapegoat. Ling Shuang, listen carefully. I did not take a single copper from your Northern Continent prefecture. I'm also afraid that the stench from your copper will contaminate my hands. Ha ha! Ling Shuang laughed at himself. Yingying, how many times do you want to lie to me? I remember that you only told me that you went out alone to gain experience, but you didn't tell me that you were just a servant girl. He took a few steps back with a bitter taste in his mouth. If I had known that you were a maidservant, perhaps I wouldn't have fallen for you, and I wouldn't have been in such a difficult position. But why did you hide it from me? Ling Shuang had already been driven mad. He roared at Huang Yingying. He already felt that everything was Huang Yingying's fault. She had failed to live up to her infatuation. Huang Yingying's body was trembling. She was obviously furious. Suddenly, a hand landed on her shoulder and pressed on her trembling shoulder, bringing some warmth to her ice-cold body. Yin Luofeng had a smile on his face as he glanced at Ling Shuang. I want to ask you a few questions. First, you keep saying that Huang Yingying lied to you, but have you ever asked about her identity? Second, they accused Huang Yingying of theft. Where's the evidence? Ling Shuang was shocked. He had indeed not asked about Huang Yingying's identity. That was because he never expected that Huang Yingying would be a maidservant. Feng, Yin Xiao frowned slightly. The murderous intent in his cold voice intensified. Why waste time on these people? In other words, it was enough to get rid of them directly. Why waste time? Chapter 1579. At the city gates, a gale raged. A cold and austere aura filled the air, causing people to tremble. Ling Shuang's body froze as he stared at the man in black in fear. He did not know why, but this man gave him the feeling that he had come from hell. His entire body was filled with killing intent. Pucci, in the void, that gray-robed elder had yet to react when he saw Yun Zhao's cold eyes sweeping over. At the same time, it was as though an invisible sword had pierced through his body. With a boom, his body smashed down from the void. The entire street was silent. The crowd that had previously looked at Yun Xiao had already turned from their initial amazement to fear. In the end, they scattered like a flock of birds and quickly dispersed. They were afraid that if they continued to stay, they would become collateral damage. Soon, apart from the people from the Continent Lord's mansion, only Yin Luofeng and his group remained. A drop of cold sweat rolled down Ling Chen's forehead. His face was pale, and his lips trembled. You? What do you want? If you really kill someone from the Northern Continent, you'll become enemies with the 7 continents. Are you sure you want to do this? The 7 continents were bound together for good or bad. No matter how much internal strife there was, they were still like 4 legs of a tripod. If one of the continents was attacked, the other continents would also become enemies with them. This was Ling Chen's last bit of confidence. Yin Luofeng's smile was lazy and evil. His evil eyes looked at Ling Chen's pale face. Will the Northern Continent let us go if we don't kill you? Ling Chen hurriedly nodded. That's right. If you let me go, we'll write off our grievances. Even if you have the Eastern Continent to back you up, don't forget that apart from the Eastern Continent, there are also the Western Continent, Southern Continent, Central Continent, and Spirit Continent. He paused, then continued. Do you think that by allying with the Eastern Continent, you'll be able to oppose the 5 continents? That's right. There's also the Sorcerer Clan. Seeing that Yin Luofeng did not speak, Ling Chen's eyes flashed, and he continued to threaten. The Sorcerer Clan in the Central Continent is very powerful and is comparable to the Continent Lord's Mansion. As such, you'll be making enemies with 6 powerful forces, Sorcerer Clan. Yin Luofeng laughed evilly. I'm afraid you'll be disappointed in the end. Ling Chen's eyes widened. At this moment, there was a loud bang, and a black flame appeared under his feet, instantly covering his body. His heart-wrenching screams resounded throughout heaven and earth, causing one's hair to stand on end. Yin Xiao calmly retracted his hand. He just didn't like anyone threatening Yin Luofeng. Huang Yingying. Yin Luofeng looked up at Huang Yingying. This man, how do you want to deal with him? Huang Yingying's body trembled, and she lowered her head. After a moment of silence, she looked up at Yin Luofeng. Miss, even though he trusted someone else, he didn't do anything to harm me. So, I won't do anything to him. But since he wanted to harm you, Miss, you should personally deal with him. Yingying. Ling Shuang's face paled. He didn't think that Huang Yingying would be so heartless that she didn't care about his life or death. Huang Yingying simply turned her head and didn't look at Ling Shuang anymore. She was afraid that if she looked at him again, she wouldn't be able to control herself. Yun Yi, cripple Ling Shuang. As for the rest, kill them. This time, the northern continent had suffered heavy losses. Countless powerful elders had been killed, and of the two youths from the northern continent, one was dead and the other was injured. To the northern continent's continent lord, this was a heavy blow. Perhaps they wouldn't be able to recover even after a few decades. Chapter 1580. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily and rested his head on Yun Zhao's shoulder. The corners of his lips curled into an angle as he said, I'm tired. Then rest for a while. We'll reach the beast continent in a while. Yun Xiao lowered his eyes and looked at the young girl on his shoulder. He lifted his arms and lifted her up. With a swoosh, his figure quickly broke through the city gates and leapt into the sky. Their long hair fluttered in the wind. Their white dresses and black robes fluttered in the air. They were as beautiful as a painting. Huang Yingying blinked in surprise. Just as she was about to chase after Yun Luofeng, she saw Yun Luofeng lowering his eyes to look at the puppet below. Then, Yun Yi carried Huang Yingying and rushed towards Yun Luofeng and the others at lightning speed. As a puppet, he naturally could not fly in the air. However, he did not know fatigue and ran at lightning speed on the ground. Huang Yingying, who was carried on his shoulder, nearly fainted as she saw stars. As one of the main cities of the Beast Continent, the Beast City was bustling with activity. There were birds and beasts galloping through the streets. Such a scene could not be seen in the other continents. At this moment, within the Beast City, the beasts who were walking in the city suddenly saw two men and two women walking into the city. They could not help but stop in their tracks. The two people walking in front were exceptionally outstanding. The man was handsome and cool, while the woman was devastatingly beautiful. Even the Fox clan, who were known for their beauty, could not compare to these two. Quick, hurry and report to Her Highness. There are more humans coming. The Beast City was different from the other continents. The main cities of the other continents were all in the central zone. Only this Beast City was the first city one had to pass upon entering the Beast Continent. However, the Beast Continent did not have a Continent Lord's office. Instead, it was established by the various clans of the Beast Clan. For example, this Beast City was occupied by the most barbaric of the legendary Leopard Clan. Her Highness the princess that they spoke of was the eldest daughter of the Leopard King. It was said that the princess of the Leopard Clan was unreasonable and loved handsome men. Any man that caught her, I would not be able to escape her clutches, except a few days ago, a man that she had taken a liking to had been snatched away by her younger sister. As she could not harm her own clan, she could only swallow her resentment. Da-da-da. The sound of footsteps came from the front of the street. Yun Xiao, who was chatting with Yun Luofeng, unconsciously furrowed his sword-like eyebrows. He looked coldly at the army that was quickly approaching. In front of the army was an extremely beautiful woman with a wild nature. She held a javelin in her hand, and her chest was bare. Her domineering eyes swept over the handsome man in black robes, and a hint of greed flashed in her eyes. She had seen many humans, but this was the only one with such exquisite looks. Even the fox man who had been snatched away by his younger sister couldn't compare to this man. Hey, thinking of this, the beautiful woman raised her chin and said in a domineering manner, From now on, you are mine. Apart from me, no other women are allowed to appear by your side. So, guards, her voice paused, and she said coldly, Kill all the women. As for the men, bring them all back. I don't like people who have polluted my man to still be alive in this world. Although Yun Yi looked ordinary and his body was riddled with scars, this man looked burly and powerful. His skills in bed should be pretty good. Chapter 1581. As for Yin Luofeng and Huang Yingying, the beautiful lady scoffed. She only wanted men. As a woman, she could not escape death. Furthermore, she would never allow any woman to lay a finger on her man. Yes, your highness. In an instant, many Leopard Clan guards surrounded Yin Luofeng and the others. The javelins in their hands were aimed at their bodies. Yun Xiao pulled Yin Luofeng into his arms with his large hand. His cold gaze swept across the Leopard Clan guards surrounding them. A cold light flashed across his eyes, and a murderous aura spread out, covering the entire street. Bang! Bang, bang, bang. No one saw how Yun Xiao made his move. The front row of Leopard Clan guards suddenly emitted the sound of an explosion. Then a mist of blood filled the air, and the smell of blood filled their noses. The Leopard Princess's face darkened, and she snorted coldly. Foolish humans. In the Leopard Clan's territory, all you need to do is obey us. You even dared to kill my Leopard Clan guards. If it wasn't for your good looks, I would have dismembered you long ago. Big sister. Just at this moment, a cold voice rang out from behind. You're snatching human men again. Yun Xiao had just raised his hand, and a strong spiritual energy gradually formed in his hand. However, before he could make a move against the Leopard Clan princess, a lily-white hand suddenly landed on his hand and held it tightly. Yin Xiao, don't make a move. Let's wait and see. The Beast Continent was very powerful. Otherwise, they would not have been unable to subdue it even after a few continents joined forces. Yin Luofeng did not know how powerful Yin Xiao was. Hence, she asked Yin Xiao to stop for now and wait and see. It would not be too late to make a move then. She was not a person who was willing to suffer losses. She would not act impulsively unless she had absolute confidence. Why are you here? The Leopard Clan princess turned to look at the young girl behind her. A look of disgust flashed across her eyes. This young girl bore some resemblance to the Leopard Clan princess. Unfortunately, there was a scar on her originally beautiful face, ruining her beauty. In the Beast Continent, which was famous for its beauties, she was indeed an oddity. Big sister, feelings are supposed to be mutual. Why do you always try to seize him by force? The young girl frowned as she questioned. The Leopard Clan princess snorted coldly. As long as this princess takes a fancy to someone, I won't let them off. Ainli, I advise you to mind your own business. Otherwise, I won't be as easy to talk to as last time. Ely smiled disapprovingly. What if I insist on poking my nose into this matter? Then don't blame me for being rude. In the Panther clan, even though the eldest princess was the most beautiful and was doted on by the Panther King, the one with the greatest talent was still the little princess. Although the little princess was young, her strength was already on par with the first princess. Given time, she would be able to surpass her. Unfortunately, the little princess had lost her beauty many years ago. Otherwise, the little princess would definitely be the most popular woman in the Beast City. You, the eldest princess, gritted her teeth in anger. Ely, I've already given you the man you fancied. If you try to snatch him from me again, don't blame me for complaining to my imperial father. Ely smiled and ignored the eldest princess. She slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng with a courteous and friendly smile on her face. Miss Yun, since you've come to our Beast City, you're our guest. I won't allow anyone to treat you rudely. Chapter 1582. Yun Luofeng frowned. This Panther princess knew who she was? Yun Luofeng grew wary at the thought. Yun Xiao, who was next to him, shielded her in her arms and stared coldly at the young girl. Miss Yun, you don't have to be so nervous. I've heard about you from Hu Li. Hu Li? Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao looked at each other, then at Ely. You know Hu Li? Hu Li? Ely lowered her head shyly. Is my husband. Yun Luofeng froze on the spot like thunder. Hu Li had been missing for so long. Had he come to the Beast Clan to become the Emperor's son-in-law? Could it be that the man the two Panther princesses were fighting over was Hu Li? My husband guessed that Miss Yin would come to the Beast Continent. He drew a portrait of you and asked me to pay attention to you. So, when I saw you just now, I couldn't help but step forward. Compared to the barbaric panther princess, this little princess's words were very comforting. Yin Luofeng paused, then said, I want to see Hu Li. All right, Miss Yin, please follow me. Ili bowed to Yin Luofeng with the Beast Clan's etiquette, then turned and walked towards the palace. When she arrived in front of the eldest princess, she stopped in her tracks and her lips curled into a slight smile. Eldest sister, these people are my guests. I hope you can be more courteous. Otherwise, don't blame me for not considering our kinship. The princess trembled with anger. She clenched her fists tightly and glared at Ili angrily. This damned stinky girl. She was really making enemies with her in every way. Huli was one thing, but this man was so outstanding. She would never let him go. Suddenly, the princess felt a sharp pain on her face. It was so painful that she screamed. She held her cheek tightly, feeling the pain. Princess. The guard quickly walked to the princess's side. After seeing her current appearance, he was clearly shocked. What are you waiting for? Look at my face. What's wrong? Why does it hurt so much? Seeing the princess's angry expression, one of the female guards hesitated for a moment, then took out a mirror from her lapel. The princess did not have time to ask why the female guard would carry a mirror with her, because at that moment, she had already seen the person in the mirror. When she saw the rash on her face, she screamed, rolled her eyes, and fainted. Yin Luofeng and the others acted as if they did not notice the commotion behind them. Only Yin Xiao was looking at Yin Luofeng with a pair of smiling eyes. Others might not have noticed, but it was impossible for him not to see Yin Luofeng's movements. His wife really didn't know how to take a loss. The leopard princess was most proud of her looks, so she decided to destroy it. But he loved her deeply, didn't he? We're here. This is the palace of our panther race. Ili stopped in her tracks and turned to Yin Luofeng and the others with a faint smile. Yin Xiao, before entering the palace, Yin Luofeng frowned slightly and spoke in a voice that only the two of them could hear. I don't know if this Ili is trustworthy, but I had no choice but to come here. Therefore, we must be on high alert to prevent any accidents from happening. After all, she'd only just met Ili, so how could she possibly trust her? In order to find Hu Li and Wu, she was willing to take the risk. Chapter 1583. No one can hurt you. Yin Xiao paused before replying seriously. If the Panther Clan wants to hurt you, then there's no need for the Panther Clan to exist. Yin Luofeng's lips curled into a smile. She paid no heed to Yin Xiao's words as she walked through the magnificent palace gates, keeping her guard up at all times. Fortunately, nothing happened along the way. They walked into the back garden without any obstructions. It was at this moment that the man sitting in the pavilion suddenly fell into her eyes, Yin Luofeng. Huli also saw Yin Luofeng, and a look of joy flashed across his eyes. His figure quickly streaked across the sky and landed in front of her. You're here. Yin Luofeng glanced behind Hu Li, but did not see that small figure. She frowned and asked, Where's Wu? This little boy, whom she called Wu Yi, was the one she had picked up on the road and had asked Hu Li to look after. Hu Li froze and lowered his head guiltily. I'm sorry, I lost him. Lost him? Yin Luofeng raised his brows and asked. Hu Li laughed bitterly. I found out that Hong Wan had come to the Beast Continent, so I brought Wu Yi to this place. Who knew that we would encounter danger in the desert, and I lost her. It's all right. If that fellow really harbors ill intentions, he will appear again. Yin Luofeng shrugged and said with a faint smile, Hu Li, can you tell me how you became the Panther Clan's son-in-law? Hu Li coughed dryly and looked a little embarrassed. When I entered the Beast City, I was harassed by the Panther Clan's eldest princess. In order to help me, Princess Li pretended to like me. Otherwise, he would probably have become a member of the Panther Clan's eldest princess harem. Thinking of this, Hu Li could not help but shudder. His entire body felt disgusted. However, Princess Li promised to help me look for Wu Yi and even help me keep an eye on your whereabouts. That's why I stayed. How did you know that I would definitely come to the Beast City? Yin Luofeng stroked his chin and continued to ask. Hu Li winked at her seductively. Based on your personality, if Hong Luan's whereabouts were unknown, would you not appear? Boom. Unexpectedly, Hu Li had just finished speaking when a powerful aura suddenly came crashing down. His body was instantly thrown out, and he fell to the ground in a sorry state with a bang. Yin Xiao tore off his sleeve and furrowed his brows as he wiped her eyes. Yin Xiao, what are you doing? Yin Luofeng took a few steps back and asked. He was making eyes at you. And then, I'm afraid that I'll stain your eyes. When Yin Luofeng raised her head, she saw Yun Zhao's serious expression. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. At this moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard. The one in the lead was a dignified middle-aged man. He was wild and resolute, and his face was handsome. Set off by the group of guards, he seemed to have the demeanor of a king. Father. Eli's expression changed slightly as she respectfully lowered her head and called out, Eli, did you steal your sister's man again? The middle-aged man's tone was cold as he spoke indifferently. Father, these people my husband's friends, Sunf. The middle-aged man scoffed coldly and glanced at Hu Li in disgust. For the sake of a man, you made an enemy of your sister time and time again. Is it really worth it? Hu Li, who had been called out by the Panther King, leisurely found a stone stool and sat down. A straw hung from the corner of his mouth, making him look like a ruffian. His seductive almond-shaped eyes carried a disapproving smile. Chapter 1584. His disrespect towards him made the Panther King even more furious. Look, this is the human man you've taken a fancy to? He has no manners at all. It's very obvious that his friends lack manners as well. They didn't even kneel when they saw me. The Panther King's gaze swept towards Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. His eyes filled with coldness. Yun Zhao's gaze, which was originally on Yun Luofeng, finally slowly lifted, and his cold gaze landed on the Panther King. His black robes fluttered despite the lack of wind. He gradually stretched out his hand, and a powerful spiritual energy gathered in his palm. Father, Ili gritted her teeth. Elder sister, you're snatching a man in front of everyone. Isn't that even worse? Slap. The Panther King raised his hand angrily and slapped Ili across the face. Towards this disappointing daughter of his, he was so angry that his entire body trembled. Who allowed you to disrespect your elders like this? Do you really think that I won't punish you? If this daughter's face had not been disfigured, his heart would definitely be biased towards his younger daughter. Unfortunately, his younger daughter's face had been disfigured. In the Beast Continent, which was famous for its beauty, she was destined to be ridiculed. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, the Panther King felt the entire ground beneath his feet shake. He turned pale with fright and hurriedly looked towards the source of the energy in the wild wind. The man was like a cold god of death. It was as if he had stepped through hell, and the murderous aura emanating from his body made everyone tremble in fear. A powerful energy was emitted from his body. Under this energy, the surrounding buildings were swept into the sky, covering the entire blue sky. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, it came crashing down with a loud bang. As the Panther King was facing the epicenter of the energy, he was knocked unconscious on the spot. The guards hurriedly regained their senses and rushed towards the Panther King. The king has fainted. Quickly save the king. At this moment, no one cared about Yun Xiao and the others. Even the king had been knocked unconscious in one move. How could they, the guards, deal with such a terrifying man? Eli's mouth opened wide in shock, as if she had never expected Hu Li's friend to be so powerful. Soon after, she was a little worried. Hu Li, although your friend is powerful, all the races of the beast race are linked together. Once one race is defeated by the humans, the other races will attack the humans together. She paused and said, Do you know why our beast city is the closest to the northern continent? That's because our beast city is the weakest and the other races are all stronger than us. Especially the mysterious Dragon Clan and Phoenix Clan. They are both clans that stand above the other major clans. This was what worried Yari the most. You're tired. Yin Xiao turned to Yun Luofeng. What he said was not a question, but a statement. So, I'll send you to rest. All right. Yin Luofeng smiled. With Yun Xiao by her side, she felt very at ease. Huli, are you going to leave? Ili watched as Yun Luofeng, Yun Xiao, and the others disappeared into the distance. She pursed her lips slightly, and her tone was filled with reluctance. Huli didn't notice her strangeness. After pondering for a while, she said, "It should be. Actually, I can help you find the person you're looking for. As long as he could stay for a period of time." Huli paused. "I've troubled you for long enough. I can't trouble you any longer. After Yin Luofeng, I'll leave with him and look for Hong Wan." Ili sighed. She also understood that she couldn't make him stay. Chapter 1585. The Phoenix Clan. The cries of a flaming phoenix rang out from the top of the volcano and echoed throughout the entire mountain peak. An old man who had been sitting cross-legged in the mountain suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with joy as he said, "Is the master back?" A few years ago, the Phoenix Clan had faced a great crisis. That crisis had caused countless cultivators in the Phoenix Clan to turn into ashes. It was also at that time that a godlike black-robed man had appeared out of thin air and helped the Phoenix Clan resolve the crisis. From then on, they had worshipped this man as the master of the Phoenix Clan. Unfortunately, after that incident, the man had disappeared once again and had never appeared again. Unexpectedly, the fire phoenix that the Phoenix Clan had sent to search for the man had sent news that the man had appeared. This news was so shocking that the entire Phoenix Clan was in an uproar. At the same time, a white-haired man was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed in front of the Dragon Clan's altar. Even though the man was handsome, he could not hide the vicissitudes of life on his face. Suddenly, the man opened his eyes, and a sense of joy appeared in his murky eyes. "Someone, quickly gather all the elders of the Dragon Clan. I have an important order." "Yes, my king." A figure appeared in front of the white-haired man, and soon disappeared without a trace. The man rose from the mat and placed his hand behind his back as he hurried towards the clan hall. The elders were already waiting quietly in the clan hall. When they saw the white-haired man rushing over, they quickly rose to their feet and asked respectfully, "May I know what orders my king has summoned us for?" The white-haired man strode up to the throne and looked around him with a cold and stern expression. "I have summoned all of you here to announce something." He paused before he continued. "The ancestor of the Dragon Clan has returned." "Ancestor?" The crowd turned pale with fright. Some of them even stood up in shock and could not conceal the excitement on their faces. "My king, is this true? Has our ancestor really returned?" "That's right." The white-haired man nodded. "Thousands of years ago, our ancestor provoked a peerless powerhouse. He claimed that he needed to leave the Dragon Clan and lure that peerless powerhouse away to ensure the safety of the Dragon Clan." At the mention of the past, the white-haired man could not help but feel a little sad. Unfortunately, Ancestor guessed wrongly. That peerless expert did not chase after Ancestor and instead destroyed the Dragon Clan into pieces. However, Ancestor's selfless spirit still needs us to learn. "King, you should tell us where our ancestor is so that we can welcome him back." "Actually, I don't know his exact location. After all, my divine sense isn't strong enough, and I can only spread it across the entire Beast Continent. If my ancestor is outside of the Beast Continent, I won't be able to find him. But just now, a strand of my divine sense sensed my ancestor's presence. He's back." The white-haired man became even more emotional, and his eyes were filled with tears. "King, in the current Dragon Clan, only you have seen our ancestor. We don't even know what he looks like. How are we supposed to find him?" One of the elders raised a question. Indeed, in order to find the Dragon Clan's ancestor, the white-haired man had reached the end of his lifespan. Spiritual beasts may have a long lifespan, and even the weakest humans can live for up to 1,000 years. However, no matter how long a lifespan is, it does not mean that it will never run out. Unless one's power has reached the pinnacle, Otherwise, any life will eventually run out of energy. Chapter 1586. Hence, even though the white-haired man had maintained his youthful appearance and body, he had only overdrawn his lifespan in order to subdue the Dragon Clan. In reality, he could no longer step out of the Dragon Clan. Hence, he could only rely on the elders to search for the Dragon Clan's ancestor. I have considered this matter before. Hence, I have specially drawn a portrait of the Dragon Clan's ancestor. Follow the portrait and you will find him. The white-haired man smiled mysteriously. He then took out a scroll from his sleeve and placed it on the table. The scroll slowly unfurled. At that moment, the portrait of the Dragon Clan's ancestor fell into the eyes of all the elders. How should they put it? The Dragon Clan's ancestor's appearance was a little unexpected. On the scroll was a small, emerald green worm. Its entire body was transparent, and its large, round eyes were very adorable. If they had not known its identity, perhaps everyone would have thought that it was a harmless worm. King. The elders raised their heads in unison and stared at the white-haired man in astonishment. Are you sure that this is the Dragon Clan's ancestor? I don't think so. Not only doesn't he look like the Dragon Clan's ancestor, he clearly doesn't even look like a dragon. This little thing actually has the power to control a member of the Dragon Clan. Back then, when the Dragon Clan's ancestor was still around, I was still very young, but I have seen him from afar. He is indeed the Dragon Clan's ancestor. Furthermore, his power is so great. The white-haired man's eyes were filled with worship and reverence. His expression was as if he was worshiping his own god. Wasn't that right? In the eyes of the Dragon Clan, the Dragon Clan's ancestor was their god. He was also a selfless god. King. The elders saw the white-haired man's expression and accepted the scroll. They then replied respectfully, "Don't worry, King. We will definitely find the Dragon Clan's ancestor and bring him back. I am very relieved to leave this matter to you. When the Dragon Clan's ancestor returns, I can rest in peace." The white-haired man smiled and replied calmly. Beast City. In the guest room, Yin Luofeng was leaning on Yun Zhao's shoulder as he played with Little Worm. Little Worm was furious but did not dare to speak up. It could only sullenly allow Yin Luofeng to play with it. If it had not made a pact with Yin Zhao in order to leave that godforsaken place, it would not be in such a miserable state. Yin Zhao, where did this little worm come from? Why are you at Sangsha Mountain? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and asked with a smile. Yin Zhao's gaze turned towards Little Worm, his face expressionless. He did not say anything, but he had already used his eyes to express what he wanted to express. Little Worm felt very wronged. He did not dare to resist and could only answer honestly, "Back then, I accidentally provoked a god-level expert." A god-level expert? Yin Luofeng was startled. Did gods really exist on this continent? That divine-level expert strength was too terrifying, so I fled. Of course, how could I tell others that I was fleeing for my life? So, I told my clansmen that I had provoked a peerless expert. In order to not bring disaster to the clan, I was responsible for luring that peerless expert away. When it said this, Little Worm's face was full of pride, as if it was proud of its intelligence. That godly expert couldn't find me, so he destroyed my territory. Actually, I already knew that godly expert's personality. At most, he would destroy some buildings and wouldn't harm my clansmen. That's why I was able to escape with my mind at ease. Chapter 1587. Little Worm held its head high. It did not feel that its actions were undignified at all. From its point of view, letting others know that it was being chased by someone on the run would be the most degrading thing. How did you offend that god-level expert? Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with amusement. The corners of Little Worm's mouth froze, and its expression turned awkward. The corners of its mouth twitched a few times, its expression as if this matter was very embarrassing to talk about. "Fenga, do you want to be roasted alive or steamed?" Yin Zhao's voice was cold and emotionless. Anyone could tell that he was very displeased that Little Worm did not answer Yun Luofeng's question. Little Worm's face instantly paled. It had wanted to use a lie to bluff its way out of this, but after meeting Yun Zhao's cold gaze, it shivered all over. If it was someone else, it might still be able to lie, but the man in front of it had already formed a contract with it. Even if it told a single lie, he would be able to see through it. Many years ago, I knew this god-level expert, but we could only be considered acquaintances. However, Little Worm's expression turned even uglier. One time, I was lying on the ground taking an afternoon nap. That fellow didn't notice that I was taking an afternoon nap. By the time I was startled awake, I'd already been covered by his filth. In a fit of anger, I enlarged my body and burrowed into his chrysanthemum flower. Yin Luofeng's fingers paused, and her expression became extremely ugly. She slowly breathed in, and only then did she suppress the urge to throw the little bug out. "Mistress, don't you think that fellow has gone too far?" Little Worm was very angry. First, he used a pile of shit to bury me. I was just too angry and blew him up. Did he need to chase me all the way to my hometown? Yin Luofeng glanced at Little Worm. "You should be glad that he only chased after you." Little Worm blinked and looked at Yin Luofeng in a daze. What did mistress mean? She actually wanted to be glad that he was being chased after? Yin Luofeng's voice paused before she continued. "Luckily, he did not fall in love with you. Because of this, Little Worm was dumbfounded, as if he did not understand what Yin Luofeng meant. Suddenly, a large hand reached out from the side, picked up the little bug, and threw it out of the window. Yin Xiao forcefully grabbed onto Yin Luofeng's shoulder, forcing her to face him. Her cold black eyes were filled with grievance at this moment. He has taken up too much of your time. It was so long that he wanted nothing more than to slaughter this insect. For the first time, Yin Xiao regretted. He regretted bringing the little worm out. It was very obvious that although Yin Luofeng did not say it out loud, she actually liked this worm very much. This made Yin Xiao very jealous. Yin Luofeng smiled as she stared at the man in front of her. She then pushed Yin Xiao down onto the bed and pressed her arms tightly against the bed. "Yin Xiao, are you jealous of a spiritual beast?" Yin Luofeng narrowed his eyes, and a dangerous light flashed in his eyes. Feeling the softness in front of him, the man's lust rushed to his heart. He grabbed Yin Luofeng's arm and pressed her against the bed, kissing her lips forcefully. Yin Luofeng clutched the sheets on the bed tightly. The man's lips were very thin and cold, but they carried a domineering aura. 2 balls of lust could faintly be seen in his black eyes. Those flames seemed to be able to burn one's body with lust. All their clothes were taken off. On the large bed, there were only 2 bodies, entangled incessantly. It was an enchanting room. Chapter 1588. "Ili, get your ass out here right now." The next day, an angry shout rang through the entire palace. Ili was just getting dressed with the help of a palace maid when she saw a masked woman rush in from outside. Ili, who was initially shocked, relaxed when she heard the woman's voice. "Big sister, why have you come looking for me?" "Ili, how dare you help an outsider to attack the Panther clan? You've even injured father. Furthermore, my face must have been their doing." The eldest princess was so angry that her petite figure trembled. She pointed her slender finger angrily at Ili and gritted her teeth hatefully, as if she wanted to tear the person in front of her into a million pieces. Ili smiled. "Big sister, father had been injured by an external object. No one had done anything. As for you, who knows what kind of illness you've contracted? You're trying to frame us." The eldest princess's expression turned even uglier. Indeed, even though everyone knew that Yin Xiao was involved in this matter, who had seen him make a move? He had defeated father with just his aura? Was that even possible? "Ili, just you wait. I'll make you regret this." The eldest princess flung her sleeves fiercely and walked out. Ili stared at her departing figure and laughed icily. "Don't think that I don't know that my big sister was behind the incident when Ili's face had been injured. Everyone knows that spiritual beasts are simple-minded and do not know how to scheme. This is because spiritual beasts have lived in the mountains for a long time and do not interact with humans. Hence, they have not learned how to scheme. The beast continent has now become a world of its own. How could the people who grew up in the beast continent be as simple-minded as the other spiritual beasts? Any pure species, once tainted, would no longer be as white as paper. In the rear courtyard, the eldest princess had just entered when a group of handsome men surrounded her from the front. Those men were like the emperor's concubines as they surrounded the eldest princess, waiting for her to dote on them. Get lost. The eldest princess scoffed icily as she kicked the man in front of her and bellowed angrily. This man was rather handsome and had a pure heart and few desires. It was because of his looks that the eldest princess doted on him. Unfortunately, after seeing Yun Xiao, that kind of exquisite man, the eldest princess actually felt that the male concubines in her courtyard were no longer worthy of her eyes. Even looking at them made her feel disgusted. Since this man rejected me, I must have him. The first princess licked her lips, her eyes filled with greed. In the beast city, neither spiritual beasts nor humans could escape her charm. She was of noble status and peerless beauty. No man would be able to resist her allure. Only two people would dare to refuse her. The first one was Hu Li, and the second one was that cold man in black. The more she refused, the more she wanted it. Even if she had to use all means, she wouldn't hesitate. The first princess walked into the room and closed the door. She asked the guard to stand guard outside the door. She walked to the side of the bed and carefully took out a scroll from under the pillow. She picked up the scroll, walked to the candle, and slowly lit it. As the smoke slowly rose, it transformed into a blue dragon. This dragon's eyes were domineering and arrogant. He looked down at the eldest princess as if he was looking at an ant. It was as if no one was worthy of his attention in those blue eyes. What business do you have with me? Chapter 1589. The dragon's voice was very cold, looking down on the first princess. Lord Long. The eldest princess was overjoyed as she hurriedly said, "It's like this. I've recently bumped into a few humans. Amongst them, the woman named Yun Luofeng has the fire spirit fruit that you're looking for." Speaking of the fate between the first princess and this dragon, it was something that happened many years ago. Back then, the young first princess went out to train and encountered a heavily injured dragon. In order to gain the friendship of the dragon clan, the first princess saved the dragon. Before the dragon left, it gave the first princess this scroll so that she could use it to summon it if she was in danger. Fire spirit fruit? Are you sure? Dragon's eyes lit up. The eldest princess' eyes flickered. Unfortunately, this fire spirit fruit was consumed by a woman. Humph. So what if I take it? The fire spirit fruit isn't so easily digested. Wait till I find her, kill her, and cut open her heart to retrieve the fire spirit fruit. The dragon's voice was filled with disdain. However, my king has recently issued an order for all members of the dragon clan to search for the ancestor. Hence, I don't have the time to retrieve the fire spirit fruit. You better send that woman to the dragon clan. With that, the dragon's figure disappeared. The eldest princess was completely dumbfounded. He had used his only chance to save his life by burning the scroll, and this was the result? If she could deal with Yin Luofeng, why would she need to find him? As for this dragon, not being able to find the fire spirit fruit in Yin Luofeng's body, it was no longer within the scope of her consideration. Her heart was already going crazy with jealousy. What right did this kind of woman have to have such a quality man? Even if she couldn't get this man, she wouldn't let Yin Luofeng take advantage of her. But now, how is she going to trick Yin Luofeng into joining the dragon clan? Looks like this method is useless. The eldest princess' eyes darkened. Now, the only way to deal with them is to seek help from other beasts. Thinking of this, she pushed open the door and walked out. Men, inform the fox tribe, eagle tribe, wolf tribe, and all the other tribes. Just tell them that a human has come to provoke us and injure my father, and we need their help. Yes, first princess. The guard cupped his fists and retreated. Under the azure sky, Yairi stared at Hu Li, who was standing in front of her. Are you really leaving? Huli nodded. Princess Ili, take care. At this moment, Yin Luofeng and Yun Xiao walked out. Yin Luofeng glanced at the young girl who was staring longingly at Hu Li, and the corners of her lips gently curled up. Hu Li, it's time for us to go. However, she did not say anything. Instead, she turned to Hu Li and slowly opened her mouth. All right. Hu Li did not notice Princess Ili's strange behavior. He smiled seductively and wanted to walk over to Yun Luofeng's side. However, after meeting Yun Zhao's cold gaze, he tactfully retreated. The few of them quickly walked out of the arch door. Princess Ili watched Hu Li leave. She wanted to ask him to take her with him, but in the end, she couldn't say it. Oh, right. Yin Luofeng suddenly stopped. She raised her hand and tossed a porcelain bottle to Princess Ili. The ointment inside can heal your scars. Remember to apply it once in a while. Princess Eli was taken aback. She clenched the porcelain bottle in her hand and bit her lip. Thank you. When Yin Luofeng and the others walked out of the palace doors, this news also reached the eldest princess' ears. She stood up abruptly. Chapter 1590. What did you say? Those humans have left? She clenched her fists. I never thought that they would leave just like that. But it doesn't matter. The beast continent is the territory of us, spiritual beasts. They won't be able to escape. At the same time, in a cave in the Dragon Clan, the corners of the man in blue's lips curled into a small angle. His gentle gaze fell upon the woman who was lying on the ice bed. This woman's beauty could topple cities. Her red robes accentuated her domineering and flamboyant aura. However, at this moment, the woman in red was firmly imprisoned by the ice bed, unable to move. She could only stare fixedly at the man in blue with eyes filled with rage. The rage in her eyes looked as if it could burn him into ashes. The man in blue stretched out his hand, wanting to caress the woman's face. Unexpectedly, the woman in red had a fiery temper and bit the man's finger. The man gasped in pain, but did not blame her. Instead, he stared at her with a gentle gaze. Hong Wan, why do you have to do this? Wouldn't it be nice to be my wife? Scram! The woman in red roared angrily. I feel disgusted just by looking at you. Hong Wan, do you know that I've found the whereabouts of the fire spirit fruit? As long as I have the fire spirit fruit, I can save you. Hearing this, the woman in red laughed icily as a mocking smile appeared on her face. Who had caused me to end up like this? Hong Wan, I had fallen in love with you and wanted you to bear my child. I never thought that this would happen. The man in blue furrowed his brows as his handsome face filled with remorse. Unfortunately, I don't like you. She still needed to raise her power and avenge Yin Luofeng. She could never stay here and be the wife of a dragon. Obviously, Hong Wan was still unaware that Yin Luofeng was still alive. Hong Wan, you must be my wife. I will make you bear my child, not a demi-beast human. Once a human and a spiritual beast have a union, the child born can only be a demi-beast human. Regardless of talent or lifespan, it would be greatly reduced. He would never allow his child to be a demi-beast human. If Hong Wan wanted to give birth to a complete dragon, there was only one method. However, that method was extremely dangerous. Otherwise, Hong Wan would not need to rely on this ice bed to survive. However, he really did not understand why Hong Wan would not accept such an outstanding dragon like him. Hong Wan clenched her fists tightly, but she felt weak all over her body. If my friend is still alive, she will definitely come to find me. If she comes, even if it means overturning your entire dragon clan, she will still take me away. If Yin Luofeng was still alive, she would definitely come to save her. Hong Wan lowered her eyes slightly, concealing the heartbreak in her eyes. Now, whenever she thought of her old friend's death, she would still feel a heart-wrenching pain. Hong Wan, the blue-robed man, could not help but laugh. Are you joking? Don't you know what kind of existence my dragon clan is? If your friend really dares to come to my dragon clan, he will definitely not be able to return. Hong Wan smiled coldly and closed her eyes ignoring the man in front of her. Yin Luo Feng, if you were still alive, I believe that you would definitely come to save me. The blue-robed man looked at Hong Wan, and his eyes were filled with exasperation. He then turned toward the Dragon Clan guard behind him and said, "Go to the Beast City and retrieve the Fire Spirit Fruit. I don't really trust the Beast Clan's princess." "Oh, that's right. The woman with the Fire Spirit Fruit seems to be called Yin Luo Feng." Chapter 1591. Yin Luo Feng. Hong Wan's body trembled, but she quickly regained her composure. Impossible. This Yin Luo Feng was definitely not the Yin Luo Feng that she was familiar with. It was just a coincidence. Even though Hong Wan's heart was on the verge of bursting with hope, she still suppressed it deep in her heart. She was afraid that in the end, it would just be an empty joy, the Beast Continent. In the desolate mountain forest, few people could be seen, and not even a single spirit beast could be seen. Hence, at this moment, Yin Luo Feng still did not know that he had caused a stir in the Beast Continent. Human? A sneaky little head peeked out from the side of the forest and looked at Yin Luo Feng and the others in surprise. "Are you humans new to the Beast Continent?" Huang Yingying and Huli stood by Yin Luo Feng's side like guards and looked at the little boy with vigilance. Don't judge this little boy by his young age, for him to appear in such a place. How could he be an ordinary person? "Who are you?" Huang Yingying frowned and asked coldly. "I'm the same as you, a human. However, among the humans in the Beast Continent, the ugly ones are taken as slaves by the beasts, and the good-looking ones are taken by the beasts. My father is the same as you, and accidentally entered the Beast Continent. If he had not joined the alliance by luck, perhaps he would have been taken away by the beasts." Before coming to the Beast Continent, Yin Luo Feng already knew about the treatment of humans in the Beast Continent. Even though Huang Yingying had said that humans could not resist the temptation of handsome men and beautiful women, but there would always be humans who were unwilling to be enslaved by the beasts. Hence, the alliance that this little boy spoke of was probably created for this reason. "Have you seen a girl in red called Hong Wan?" Yin Luo Feng thought for a moment and asked. The little boy tilted his head, looking innocent and naive. "She's not part of our alliance. If she was part of the alliance, there was no way he had not heard of her." "How long has your alliance been established?" Yin Luo Feng continued to ask. The little boy thought for a moment and said, "About 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the humans of the Beast Continent were still in dire straits. It was a man who suddenly appeared and established this wind-chasing alliance that gathered the humans of the Beast Continent together." Wind-chasing alliance? Who is the leader of the alliance? Yin Luo Feng stroked his chin and frowned. The alliance doesn't have a leader. The person who established the alliance only called himself the deputy leader. He said that the leader hasn't appeared yet. This wind-chasing alliance was established for an old friend of his, the little boy explained patiently. "Then the Vice Guild Master's name, I'm not too sure about that. I only know that the Vice Alliance Master's surname is Nangong." Nangong. Yin Luo Feng was startled, but she didn't think too much about this family name. After exchanging glances with Yun Xiao, he once again looked at the innocent and adorable little boy in front of him. "Can you bring us to the alliance?" "All right." The boy smiled innocently, revealing 2 canine teeth. "The Vice Guild leader isn't in the alliance right now, but the others in the alliance are easy to get along with. You can just come with me." Little fellow, Huli saw that the little boy wasn't much of a threat and walked in front of the boy in a very familiar manner. She raised an eyebrow and asked, "Are you a half-beast human?" "Yes, my father had been forcefully taken over by a spiritual beast previously. In the end, he escaped, and when he escaped, he took me with him." The little boy turned to look at Huli and smiled brilliantly. "I like humans very much. That's why I followed my father to this alliance." Chapter 1592. The little boy's smile was very innocent, as if he was a child who was not familiar with the ways of the world and could easily gain the trust of others. Not too far away, a house appeared in their line of sight. The house was surrounded by willow trees, their branches cascading down and covering the entire yard. When the little boy walked in, a few men and women who were drinking and chatting in the house noticed him and whistled at him. "Xiaoyan, you're back? These are Uncle Tian Feng, Uncle Song Mu, and Xiao Shi. These guests are humans who entered the beast continent by mistake, so I brought them back." Xiaoyan's face lit up with a radiant smile. His smile was very comforting. His round little face was like an egg, white and tender. "Oh." Tian Feng raised an eyebrow and stood up from his chair. He laughed heartily and walked towards Yun Luo Feng, saying heartily, "Since you're all humans, I can represent the Deputy Alliance Leader to invite you to join the Alliance. Please state your names." "My name is Yun Luo Feng." Yun Luo Feng shrugged his shoulders. "This is my man, Yin Xiao. The other two are my subordinates, Huang Yingying and Hu Li." Tian Feng and the others' eyes lit up. The woman in front of them was dressed in clothes whiter than snow. Her beauty was enough to topple cities. Among the beast men, her looks were undefeatable. As for Yun Xiao beside her, even though he was handsome and cold, he was like a loyal dog, silently protecting the woman beside him, not saying a word. However, this man's aura was very strong, so strong that it made one's heart tremble. The main mission of the Wind-Chasing Alliance is to gather all the humans in the beast continent and fight against the spiritual beasts. You must have been chased by the spiritual beasts and escaped here. But it doesn't matter. Now that you've come to the Wind-Chasing Alliance, we won't let any spiritual beast bully you. Song Mu vowed solemnly as he patted his chest. "I've always wanted to ask you something." Hu Li raised an eyebrow. "Since you're being chased by the spiritual beasts, why don't you leave the beast continent? Head towards the human territory? What was the purpose of them staying behind?" "Leave? Are you kidding me? Don't you know that the moment you leave the beast continent, the weaker ones will be killed by the people from the northern continent, and the stronger ones will be under their surveillance for the rest of their lives? If that's the case, why don't you just fight for your life in the beast continent?" The one who said this was the only woman among the three. She had a cold smile on her face, but most of it was despair. Xiao Shi, Tian Feng frowned and swept his gaze across Xiao Shi before turning towards Yin Luo Feng and speaking in a friendly tone. "Not too long ago, I heard a piece of news. It is said that the Panther clan's king has been severely injured by someone, and that has angered the other clans in the Beast Continent. Hence, those clans have decided to join forces to kill the human who had attacked the Panther King." "The human who injured the Panther King?" Yun Luo Feng shot a glance at the expressionless Yun Xiao beside her before retracting her gaze. She helplessly shrugged her shoulders. Looks like such a huge incident had happened after they left the Bee City. Hu Li, who was at the side, was a little worried. No one knew what he was thinking. Yun Luo Feng raised his eyebrows, a faint smile on his face. "Are you worried about the little princess of the leopard race?" She had hit the nail on the head, and Hu Li's face stiffened. A sense of awkwardness flashed across his face. "She's the princess of the leopard race. Those people shouldn't have hurt her." Even though that was the case, Hu Li's heart did not hold much confidence. Chapter 1593. No one knows the eldest princess's personality better than he does. If she pushes all the blame on Ili may very well lose her life. This is something that he does not wish to see. "If you're worried, I'll let Ying accompany you to fetch Princess Ili." Yin Luo Feng raised his eyes. "Right now, the goal of those beasts is to find me and Yin Xiao. Hence, she's not in any danger for now. If they wait any longer, that might not be the case." Yin Luo Feng had allowed Huang Yingying to follow him because Huang Yingying has completed the inheritance and her powers have increased by leaps and bounds. Under normal circumstances, those beasts would not be able to stop her. All right. Hu Li immediately agreed. He does not have any feelings for Li, but she was his savior. He could not abandon her no matter what. "Miss Yin, where are your subordinates going?" Matsumoto stared curiously at Hu Li and Huang Yingying as they walked out. His eyes were filled with shock. Yin Luo Feng had transmitted her words directly into Hu Li and Huang Yingying's minds. Hence, these people had not heard her voice. She has always been very vigilant. Even if these people were humans, she would never let them know of her intentions. Nothing. Yin Luofeng did not intend to explain further. Even though Matsumoto and the others were filled with doubts, they did not probe further. Everyone has something that they are not willing to talk about. Isn't that so? The next day, a loud rumble echoed throughout the courtyard and frightened everyone so much that they jumped out of their beds. What's going on? Matsumoto was the first to rush out of his room. When he stepped out of his room, he was shocked to see a sky full of beasts. He was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. What's going on? How did the spiritual beasts find this place so quickly? At the same time, the rest of the crowd also rushed out of their rooms. When they saw the ostentatious spiritual beasts, their expressions turned extremely ugly. Lord Matsumoto, could it be those people who had just arrived yesterday? They've brought the spiritual beasts. No one knew who had spoken in the crowd, but it caused the crowd to break into a flurry of discussion. That's right, it must be them. Besides, that woman's subordinates had suddenly left yesterday, so they must have reported our whereabouts to the spiritual beasts. Otherwise, how could the spiritual beasts have found us so soon after they arrived? Everyone couldn't help but be suspicious. They had been hiding here for almost 2 years and had never been discovered by the spirit beasts. How did the spirit beasts find them the moment they arrived? Just as the crowd finished speaking, Yin Luofeng, dressed in white, pushed open the door. Her stunning figure appeared under the morning light. Yin Xiao stood silently by her side. Aside from the woman next to her, her cold and grim eyes could not contain anyone else. Lord Pinewood, I suggest that we kill this human and that kid, Xiao Yin, before the spiritual beasts destroy us. If he hadn't brought these humans back, this wouldn't have happened. We should kill her as well. In the crowd, the man who had slandered Yin Luofeng glanced at her with a cold gaze. His voice was very shrill. Xiao Yin's face paled. He was so frightened that he couldn't even speak. His eyes were filled with grief as he stared pitifully at Pinewood. Enough. Pinewood furrowed his brows. We don't have any evidence to prove that Lady Yun and the others had brought these spiritual beasts. It's best if you don't have any evidence. Chapter 1594. The man instantly fell silent. However, he still looked unconvinced as he glared fiercely at Yin Luofeng and Yun Xiao with his gloomy eyes. Yun Xiao glared at him icily. That glare seemed to carry a heavy sense of oppression. It was as if a huge rock was pressing down on his body, causing him to be unable to breathe and his face to turn pale. However, Yun Xiao quickly retracted her glare, and her expression was as cold as ever. Miss Yun, these spiritual beasts are very powerful. You just need to hide for a while. Leave these people to us. Tianfeng smiled. Just as he turned to look at the sky, his eyes turned as sharp as a sword, and he scoffed icily. So what if you found us? The Wind Chaser Alliance is destined to be irreconcilable enemies with you spiritual beasts. Kill. Pinewood raised his hand, and everyone in the Alliance drew their weapons. No one retreated. Roar. In the sky, a spiritual beast let out an angry roar and charged down from the sky like a fireball. It was so fast that no one could follow its movements. Pinewood hurriedly placed his broadsword across his chest. The spiritual beast's head slammed against the blade of the sword with a loud thud. At that moment, a large hole appeared in the blade of the sword, and Pinewood stumbled a few steps back. This won't do. The spiritual beasts that have arrived this time are too powerful. Logically speaking, why would the Beast Clan send out such powerful cultivators? Under normal circumstances, powerful cultivators would not be willing to personally take action and would send their subordinates to complete the task. However, the Beast Clan members who had arrived this time were all powerful cultivators from their clans. Why would they appear for the sake of the Wind Chaser Alliance? Could it be that there was a reason that they were unaware of? Watch out! Tianfeng turned around and saw a huge flaming lion appear behind Xiao Shi. His body flashed like lightning, and he charged towards Xiao Shi's back. He then raised his sword and blocked the flaming lion's fierce claws. Whoosh! The claws cut through Tian Feng's sword and tore his chest. Fresh blood flowed from his chest and dyed his green robes red. Cough, cough. Tian Feng coughed drily and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body staggered, and he almost lost his footing. At this moment, a feeling of despair surged into everyone's hearts. Tian Feng was undoubtedly the strongest existence within this group of people. However, even he was unable to face off against these powerful spiritual beasts. Wouldn't that mean that they were just waiting for death here? It's over. We're definitely finished this time. If the Vice Alliance Master was here, we might have the ability to deal with it. Everyone's faces were deathly pale. For the first time, they felt incomparable despair. Even so, none of them surrendered to the spirit beasts. Even if they were to die, they didn't want to lose their dignity. Sister, I'm sorry. Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with tears as she said apologetically. Back then, if I hadn't brought you back, you wouldn't have encountered such a thing. Boom! As soon as Xiao Yan finished speaking, a loud sound came from behind. When Matsuki and the others raised their heads, they saw a huge gorilla jumping behind Xiao Yan. It was waving its vajra-like fist and smashing it at the little girl. Be careful. Pinewood shouted in panic, his voice filled with anxiety. Tian Feng and Xiao, she were the first to react as they quickly rushed toward Xiao Yan. In the end, they were one step too late. Chapter 1595. The gorilla's fist was already smashing towards Xiaoyan's head. All it took was one hit for his brain to burst open and for him to die without a complete corpse. Boom. A huge force spread out from the gorilla's fist. Dust flew everywhere, causing everyone to cough incessantly. The eyes of Pinewood and the others were filled with despair before Xiaoyan's father left. They had all promised him that they would take good care of Xiaoyan. Who would have thought that in the end, Xiaoyan would still be in danger in front of them? Tian Feng. Pinewood, look. Xiaoxi's pupils suddenly shrank as she stared at the place where the dust had dispersed, under the gorilla's iron arm, a fist that was several times smaller than his firmly blocked his iron arm. It was a strong man covered in wounds. However, no matter how strong he was still several times smaller than the gorilla. A tender laughter came from the treetop at the side. Immediately, a little girl with flames on her body jumped down. Her appearance startled the people of the Windchaser Alliance, who had already calmed down. This is also a spirit beast? This little girl looked very innocent. Her face was carved from jade and was extremely cute. If one ignored the powerful flames on her body, they would probably think that she was a child no different from Xiaoyan. Fire. Why do you always jump down from a tree every time you appear? A voice came from the ground, scaring everyone once again. Not long after, a milk-colored gold-seeking mouse drilled out of the ground. When it drilled out of the ground, countless gold-seeking mice drilled out of the ground one after another. Among those gold-seeking mice, there were two that were the most dazzling. One of them was a pink gold-seeking mouse, while the other had a crown on its head. Aren't you the same? We were clearly teleported out from the same place. Why do you choose to go underground every time? Fire curled his lips and said disdainfully, We are gold-seeking mice. Isn't it normal for us to drill into the ground? You are a fox. Why do you always climb trees? I like it. You can find it. Fire raised his chin and said arrogantly. The gorilla couldn't stand it any longer and interrupted. You should be from the Mouse Clan and the Fox Clan, right? Why are you so late? The hearts of the members of the Windchaser Alliance sank. Originally, these spirit beasts were already hard enough to deal with, but now there were so many more. Especially that little girl whose entire body was covered in flames. She was so powerful that no one dared to look at her directly. Although the gold-seeking rat was a low-level spirit beast, don't forget that it could speak the human language. Unfortunately, to their despair, the gold-seeking rat that had mocked the little girl just now had gradually turned into a handsome young man. The pink gold-seeking mouse and the mouse queen beside him also transformed into human forms. A gold-seeking rat that could speak and transform into a human was simply a fantasy story. Fox Clan? The little girl sneered, "Why would I stay in such a lowly clan? Besides, I won't associate myself with beasts like you." Even if she had lost a tail, she was still very talented. How could she be a member of the fox clan who made a living by charming people? Because the gorilla's face was dark enough, no one could see the changes on his face clearly. However, everyone could feel the monstrous anger emanating from his body. Roar! He roared, his fists pounding on his chest, his eyes incomparably fierce. "Since you are not one of us, then go to hell." Chapter 1596. Just as the gorilla was about to go around Yun-E to attack Huli, he was blocked by Yun-E. He became even more furious and punched Yun-Yi's chest fiercely. At the same time, the other spiritual beasts began to move again. Just as the spiritual beasts charged down, they were all blocked by fire's wall of fire. Some of the spiritual beasts did not have time to restrain themselves in time and crashed into the wall of fire, causing them to cry out in pain. The members of the Windchaser Alliance were stunned. They looked at the little lowly in a fiery red dress in astonishment. They were so shocked that they could not speak. "This spiritual beast is here to help us?" Squeak, squeak. The spiritual beast that had charged into the crowd earlier had to face the groups of gold-seeking mice. "With this wall of fire, no one can pass through here." Fire clapped his hands and turned to look at Yin Luophone with a bright smile on his face. "Master, this should be enough." The rest of the spiritual beasts were enough for Yun-E and the gold-seeking mice. "Master?" In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Yin Luophone. This spiritual beast was her pet? No wonder she dared to step into the beast continent. She actually had such a powerful trump card. "Ha ha, you foolish humans." The gorilla laughed. "Do you think you can subdue us beasts like this? How naive and laughable. The two most powerful clans of the Beast Clan have yet to appear. However, I've already received news that the experts of the Phoenix Clan are already on their way." The faces of the members of the Windchaser Alliance turned pale. The wall of fire blocked the groups of spiritual beasts outside, but they would also be trapped in this place. When the people of the Phoenix Clan arrive, it would be difficult for him to escape death. "Humph!" The gorilla snorted coldly and looked at Yun Luophone and Yun Xiao with a mocking gaze. "These two humans have injured the Panther King. The Beast Clan will never let off anyone who dares to provoke us." "What?" Song Mu was shocked and turned to look at the two people beside him. His eyes were filled with shock. You were the ones who injured the Panther King?" Yun Xiao was expressionless, and his expression was cold. His black eyes stared coldly at the gorilla in front of him. A murderous aura surged from his body once again, and his black robe danced wildly. Right at this moment, a phoenix cry resounded through the sky, scaring everyone so much that their bodies trembled and they almost fell to the ground. Phoenixes were of the fire attribute. Naturally, the entire sky was dyed fiery red, like a gorgeous sunset, dazzling to the eyes. However, at this moment, the sky was extremely majestic. Countless fiery red phoenixes flew over from a short distance away. As they flew past, they left behind bright red shadows in the void, as if there were flames burning the sky. These phoenixes were all beautiful and luxurious, covering the sky and covering the earth, giving off a strong sense of oppression. It was as if, in front of these huge phoenixes, they were so weak. "Ha ha, humans, do you see that? One of the strongest beastmen, the Phoenix tribe, has appeared. If you surrender and obediently become the beastmen's slaves, perhaps there will still be a glimmer of hope." The gorilla laughed heartily. Its laughter was full of sarcasm and mockery. It was obvious that to the spirit beasts, humans were only fit to be their slaves. Just like how the humans outside the beast continent enslaved spirit beasts, the phoenix once again let out a beautiful and resounding cry that shook the entire sky. Even the howls of tigers and wolves could be heard from below, echoing the cry of the phoenix. Chapter 1597. We're done for. A look of despair appeared on Matsumoto's face. and the hope in his eyes also completely disappeared. The arrival of the Phoenixes was equivalent to giving the wind-chasing alliance a death sentence. Lord Phoenixes, these humans are too cunning and shameless. Please lend us a hand. Hundreds of beasts cried out in unison. Some of the spiritual beasts even cried out for help at the Phoenixes in the sky. Their eyes were filled with admiration and reverence. In comparison, the people of the wind-chasing alliance had already collapsed to the ground as if they were quietly waiting for the god of death to descend upon them in the sky. The leading phoenix was extremely huge, and its wings were burning with raging flames. The flames were fanned out by it, instantly igniting the weeds on the ground. A frightening feeling invaded everyone's hearts. At that moment, they finally understood how minuscule humans were in the face of the Beast Clan. Buzz! Suddenly, a deafening voice rang out. The leading phoenix had already broken through the clouds and swooped down towards the ground. The initially sturdy wall of fire instantly shattered under its powerful and mighty aura. It turned into wisps of flames and disappeared from the world. We welcome the return of our master. Thump! The leading phoenix landed on the ground, and its body gradually elongated into a handsome man with fiery red hair. He knelt in front of Yin Xiao with a respectful look on his face. We welcome the return of our master. The voices of the phoenixes echoed throughout the sky and caused a stir in the sky. The high-pitched voices did not fade away for a long time. At that moment, everyone's expressions changed. The beast tribe's initial joy turned into astonishment, then from astonishment to fear. Their eyes were filled with dread. In comparison, the humans' initially pale faces were gradually filled with hope as they turned towards Yun Xiao and the cultivator from the Phoenix clan. Master? If they had heard it right, the cultivator from the Phoenix clan had called Yun Xiao master? How? How is this possible? How could a being as powerful as the Phoenix clan willingly follow a human as its master? Even though everyone had too many questions in their hearts, no one dared to voice them out. After all, the cultivators from the Phoenix clan were beings that no one could afford to offend. Yin Xiao, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at the man beside him with a faint smile. I've mentioned before that I've come to the 7 continents to scout for you. Moreover, I've also told you that my faction exists in the Beast Continent. Yin Xiao paused for a moment before his eyes looked seriously at Yin Luofeng. The Phoenix clan is the clan that I've accepted in the Beast Continent. Yin Luofeng's eyebrows twitched. But why didn't you say that you took in the Phoenix clan? Yin Zhao's expression was one of astonishment, confusion, and grievance. You didn't ask me. If Yin Luofeng asked him, he would definitely tell him everything. However, she did not ask him, so he did not tell her about the situation in the Beast Continent. Yin Luofeng gritted his teeth. Wait until we get back tonight. I'll take care of you. I'll be waiting for you with the whip. Yin Xiao replied in a serious manner. The experts of the Phoenix clan felt as if their worldview had been shattered. The mistress claimed that she was going to teach the master a lesson, but the master actually said that he would prepare a whip and wait for her. Chapter 1598. They had never thought that their master would be a masochist. The corners of the Phoenix clan's lips twitched at the thought of this. As expected, powerful people all had their own quirks. Yin Zhao's cold eyes swept across the red-haired Phoenix clan powerhouse. He was so frightened that his entire body trembled. He quickly withdrew the smile on his face and became serious. What's the matter? The man's voice was as cold as usual. His paralyzed face was always expressionless. His dark eyes were so deep that one could not see their own figure in his pitch-black eyes. This was what they meant by being arrogant. But who asked him to have the right to look down on all living beings? Master, the elders sent me to invite you to the Phoenix clan. Yin Xiao said coldly. I am not the Phoenix clan's master. He pulled Yin Luofeng into his arms and said coldly and domineeringly. The Phoenix clan's master is only her. Everything he had belonged to Yin Luofeng. Even if he had to do everything in the world, it was all for her. If it were not for Yun Luo Feng, he would not have accepted the Phoenix Clan. That was why he had given the Phoenix Clan to her as a matter of course. The red-haired man was stunned and slightly hesitant. Yun Xiao. Yun Luo Feng raised an eyebrow. If I want to establish an organization, I can do it with my own abilities. I don't need to get it from you. Yun Xiao lowered his gaze and stared at the woman in front of him. His dark eyes were so deep that no one knew what he was thinking. After a long while, his hoarse and magnetic voice slowly rang out. All right. His woman had always been so self-reliant. Shouldn't he be proud of her? The red-haired man sighed in relief. They acknowledged Yun Xiao not only because Yun Xiao had helped them, but also because of Yun Xiao's abilities. Now that this woman's abilities were still unknown, they did not want to submit to her. However, Yun Xiao's next sentence made his face turn pale with a swoosh. The Phoenix Clan belongs to me. I belong to you. I am a Phoenix Clan's master, and I am also your guard. When they first met, he had let go of his identity as a ghost emperor and willingly became her guard and stayed by her side. Even though their relationship had changed, the only thing that did not change was that he was willing to let her do everything. He was even willing to be her guard for life. The red-haired man's face turned pale, and his lips trembled slightly. Does master mean that he's willing to continue being the master of the Phoenix Clan, but he's also the mistress's guard? In that case, wouldn't the status of the Phoenix Clan be even lower? Lord Phoenix Clan, the gorilla finally came back to his senses. He couldn't think straight for a moment, so he asked blankly, Are you mistaken? This guy is a human. Why would your Phoenix Clan acknowledge a human as their master? Idiot. The red-haired man sneered and turned to look at the gorilla with anger in his eyes. Who gave you the courage to bully the master of the Phoenix Clan? Lord Phoenix, he's just a lowly human. Hua. The red-haired man raised his hand, and a flame shot out from his palm. With a bang, the gorilla's huge body fell out, landing on all fours in a sorry state. You insulted the lowly master of my Phoenix Clan. Isn't that the same as saying that my Phoenix Clan is also lowly? This crime is unforgivable. Come, turn the gorilla race into the lowest race, deprive them of all rights, and send them to the barren land. Chapter 1599. The gorilla's eyes changed from the initial astonishment to despair. He stared blankly at the red-haired man's angry face. Divide the gorilla race into the lowest race? Deprive them of all rights? Banish them to the barren land? These words, like a heavy hammer, hit the gorilla's heart, making him beat his chest and cry regretfully. The sound of his cries spread throughout the mountain forest and did not disperse for a long time. Do you want to end up like the gorilla race? The red-haired man swept his eyes over the spirit beasts of the other races and asked in a lukewarm tone. Plop. The spirit beasts were so frightened that they collectively knelt down and kowtowed fiercely, fearing that they would really end up like the gorilla race. All the people of the Wind-Chasing Alliance felt like they were in a fog. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The spirit beasts, who had been acting tyrannically and shouting to kill just a moment ago, were now kneeling in front of them, especially the trembling appearance of those spirit beasts. TSK, it really vented their anger. Xiaoyan, a beautiful woman, quickly stepped out of the crowd of people and beasts. She crawled in front of Xiaoyan and pulled his sleeve tightly. Xiaoyan, I'm your mother. Plead for mercy on behalf of your mother. I don't want to be banished. Xiaoyan's body stiffened. He looked down at the beautiful woman who was kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy and bit his lips tightly. As long as I can remember, you've never given me a smile. Because my talent is not good and I'm not as good as my brothers and sisters, you claim that I'm a burden. My father obviously did nothing wrong, but you often beat and kicked him just because he's a human being. You despise humans so much. Why do you want to take a human as your husband? That's why Dad escaped. I didn't want to see you leave with him. After that, the only thing I remember is the countless times you tried to kill us. Xiaoyan's expression was very painful and his tone was a little agitated. Now, you've also brought a group of people to kill us. Why should I plead for you? I can't wait for you to die earlier and vent my father's anger. Xiaoyan, don't forget that you're a half-beastman. Your blood also flows with the blood of spirit beasts. The beautiful woman didn't expect Xiaoyan to be so heartless and said with an agitated expression, Xiaoyan harumphed. His voice was filled with hatred, unlike his previous innocent and innocent self. In that case, I'd rather be a complete human than have the blood of spirit beasts like you flowing through my veins. The beautiful woman was in despair. She let go of her hand, and her body went limp as she sat on the ground. Her beautiful face was pale, and her lips were trembling. Pinewood, do you remember me? I'm little Qing. Xiaoxi, come back. I'll treat you well in the future. Plead for me, Octopus, it was all my fault. Please save me. These spirit beasts basically had some sort of relationship with the people of the Wind-Chasing Alliance. Unfortunately, the memories between the two parties were too disgusting for the people of the Wind-Chasing Alliance. It was so disgusting that they didn't want to think about it anymore. However, the Wind-Chasing Alliance had become their only hope. They could only desperately grab onto this last life-saving straw and refuse to let go. Master, the red-haired man turned towards Yun Xiao and asked respectfully, how do you plan to deal with these audacious spiritual beasts? Yun Xiao did not speak. Her eyes turned towards Yun Luofeng. The red-haired man was enlightened when he saw Yun Xiao's actions. He hurriedly looked at Yun Luofeng and said, Mistress, please give the order. Chapter 1566, Death. Chapter 1600. Yun Luofeng stroked his chin with his fingers, his evil eyes filled with a dangerous light. The Beast clan has a long history, and all the clans have treasures of heaven and earth. She paused for a moment, then continued, so if you want us to let bygones be bygones, then I want to see their sincerity. There was no lack of intelligent spirit beasts in the Beast clan. Upon hearing Yun Luofeng's words, they immediately understood what she meant and hurriedly sent a clansman to bring the clan's treasures over. Compared to banishment, they would rather hand over the treasures. However, the spirit beasts of the Sword Pig clan were innately stupid. They simply did not understand the meaning behind Yun Luofeng's words and asked in a daze, Sincerity? As long as we sincerely apologize, will you let us go? Stupid. One of the experts from the werewolf clan smashed his fist on the Sword Pig's head. What she means is to use your clan's treasures in exchange for the safety of the entire clan. So that's how it is. The Sword Pig was suddenly enlightened, but his heart was filled with disdain. Humans were troublesome. Why didn't they clearly state their thoughts and waste their brain cells? Before those people come to protect the ransom, these people will stay here. Fire, suppress them. If anyone wants to escape, kill them without mercy. Yun Luofeng raised his hand and grabbed Yun Xiao's collar, smiling devilishly. Yun Xiao, shouldn't we settle our debts in bed? The corner of Yun Xiao's mouth curled up into a shallow arc as his magnetic voice slowly rang out. All right, towards her. He would never say a single no. In the spacious room, Yun Xiao silently took out a whip and slowly turned around. She held the back of her head with her hands, as if she was a person who had made a mistake and was being educated. Yun Luofeng was stunned. She took the whip that Yun Xiao handed over and asked, What are you doing? I'm waiting for your lesson. Yun Xiao's eyes were very serious. So serious that Yun Luofeng's face darkened bang. Suddenly, Yun Luofeng rushed in front of Yun Xiao, pressed him down on the bed, and kissed the man's lips. Yun Xiao, I'll tell you right now what my lesson is. In fact, Yun Luofeng was not angry at Yun Xiao at all. What's more, it was she who hadn't asked him. With Yun Xiao's personality, he wouldn't say anything if she didn't ask. Most importantly, from the beginning to the end, he had never thought of borrowing his power. She wasn't willing to become a woman behind a man. She wanted to fight alongside him and stand at the pinnacle of this continent. Yun Xiao, after I find Hong Wan, I want to return to the Wuhui continent and hold a wedding. Yun Xiao stared at the woman who had pinned him down, and a smile gradually appeared in his deep black eyes. Are you finally going to clear my name? Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Don't tell me you're really the same as the old man. thinking that I'm the kind of person who won't admit what I've done. It was just that I had been separated from you all this time, and when we finally met again, Hong Luan disappeared. Without these friends, how can I get married in peace? Her voice paused for a moment before she continued to speak. Hence, I've decided that after we find Hong Luan, we'll hold our wedding, all right? It's not just the wedding. Yun Xiao grabbed Yin Luofeng's arm and pressed her down on the bed. Also, shouldn't we start making babies? After saying this, he raised his hand and took off Yun Luofeng's clothes, letting them fall to the ground. The bed curtains were also pulled down. Through the white curtains, one could see the two people panting heavily on the bed. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.